Good. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Yeah. 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 All right. Sounds good. Okay. See you tomorrow. Okay. Bye.
Oh man, we are we are easing into week 5 right here at the Voice of College Football. Great to see everybody out there. Thank you so much for waiting patiently. Thank you so much for being here. Let's make it pay off for all of you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Let's live up to that tonight. Why don't we do that? Bet you can tell the last record that I did. Oh, we got Kentucky and Ole Miss on the top of the shelf there, talking about the Rebs and the Cats today. Look out for that video on the SEC channel. Coming up here with a Evie Van Pelt from the Rebel Walk. All right, that was a good one. Check it out. All right, appreciate everybody being here. We do have a caller on the line. Let's get right to it. Why don't we? I will say nothing about week 5 until our caller does, or whatever you've got in the great world of college football. Of course, who's on the line tonight?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
All right, McD. Yes. What's going on, man?
You hear me?
I gotcha. I didn't for a second, but that wasn't you. That was me. But now I gotcha.
All right, sounds good. Well, Mark, I'll admit I've been slacking a little bit, calling in here, saying the praises about Maryland. We're 3-1. We get Michigan State this week. I think we'll beat Michigan State, but I want to backpedal a little bit to our game against Michigan. And it's really disappointing, Mark, is that no one's saying the obvious headline coming away from that game. And the obvious headline is everybody's acting like, oh, Michigan's in trouble and everything. No, Michigan faced a really good Maryland team that all of a sudden they look like, man, I think Maryland's going 9-3 this year. I really do. I said 8-4 in the preseason. A lot of Maryland teams, if no one watched the game, I know it got talked about a lot. The open kickoff, we fumbled it, and the next play we scored a touchdown. I mean, not we. Michigan scored a touchdown, and it was 7-0. Previous Maryland teams would have mailed it in. They would have gone 3-0 in that first drive, especially if they went 3-0 in that first drive. They would have mailed it in. It would have been 14-0 in the game. It would have been over. Maryland competed in that game to the end. The penalties were against SMU. Maryland had 15 penalties. Against Michigan, they had 1 penalty and it was a false start. I think that says a lot about Mike Locksley as a coach. I think it says that Mike Locksley clearly has his team going in the right direction. And Mark, I've been watching a lot of your videos lately. And let me tell you something. Did I hear Mark Rogers call a Mike Locksley coached team a decent team? If I'm not mistaken.
I believe that slipped out of my mouth. Yes, I think they came out at some point. Yes. Maryland is a decent team. They're a solid team. This is when I look at and I watched just about every play of that game, start to finish. And yeah, I'm going to back you up on this one. Think about this, everybody. Michigan won by a touchdown. You can say what you will about Maryland's last touchdown, whether it mattered, didn't matter, whatever. They had an onside kick to try to tie the game with 45 seconds left in the game. Then Michigan got the gift of the opening kickoff off the face mask at the 10-yard line. Boom, 1 pass, 1 touchdown, like McD just said. Number 2, Michigan got the trap of the interception from DJ Turner that should have went under review. I don't know why it wasn't reviewed. I'm not saying that he did not intercept it.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Should have been looked at, yes.
So Mike Locksley was asked that after the game, and yep. I can't believe what he said. This was the one dumb moment from his press conference. According to him, the people up in the booth that review those type of plays from Maryland said that was a clean interception. I don't know what they were looking at. That was clearly not an interception, but that's why I think it wasn't reviewed, or at least Maryland didn't try to call a timeout to try to get
reviewed. They didn't review that one. Then there was also a play where Michigan eventually kicked a field goal to make it 27-19, so it was 24-19. J.J. McCarthy underthrew his man in the end zone, and there was a pick by Maryland, and he must have landed, a couple toes out of bounds. Otherwise, they picked that ball off inside the pylon, and they get the ball back at 24-19, not 27-19. Now, I'm not saying Michigan would have lost the game, but I'm just saying Every team makes mistakes every game. Shoot, there are mistakes made every play. But there are mistakes and then there are gifts. And some of those were gifts.
And that play you were talking about, his foot was out of bounds, so I had no issue with that.
I didn't have any issue. I'm just saying that Michigan didn't do anything to win that play or to force him out of bounds. I'm just saying easily it could have been just as easily a Maryland turnover and interception going their way than an incomplete pass. Like he was that close to having a pick.
Correct. And the thing that really makes me happy about Maryland is they could have beat Michigan if the ball bounced a few times towards their way. They didn't fumble that open kickoff. If a few plays went their way, they could have won that game.
That's what I'm saying.
And that makes me very happy that Loxley has his team heading in the right direction. Our game against Michigan State, I know Raheem Jarrett and Tula Tagovailoa, who, by the way, I don't know if he was – I know they said it was because of injury. I'm not 100% sure if they yanked him because of injury or if it was because of that. Because his second interception, the real interception, that was a horrible read from him. I don't know if they yanked him because of that, but I'm not concerned at all going up against Michigan State. And matter of fact, I think Maryland beats them convincingly because their pass defense and where Michigan State is as a team right now is nightmarish to say the least. So that's I think Maryland is going to beat Purdue the following week. I think Purdue is a team that's up and down. It's in the show. So I think Maryland would beat that game as well, win that game as well. But I'm very happy as a Maryland Terps fan coming away from that game. And I don't care that we lost. I'm happy to finally see that Mike Loxley has a team that could win 8-9 games easily, in my opinion.
Okay, well, everything that you just said, I'm right there with you. I will say that it's pretty easy to make the assessment that you just made on the Michigan State game. The way things are going, these are two teams that are headed in different directions. Michigan State has gotten plowed, dump trucked the last 2 weeks, and Maryland, even though it's a loss in which their defense looked better than I can remember a Maryland defense looking against a good opponent, a really good opponent with offensive talent to that degree in years and years and years and years. So they're going in different directions, but I'm just cautioning everyone that things do happen. But yes, it would appear as though Maryland, it's a favorable matchup for them, and they're just welling with confidence, getting better. Michigan State is got a lot of issues and a lot of questions to answer. The first 2 wins, not a whole lot to go by there. And then as soon as they play anybody with a pulse, then, 2 consecutive games where they just got manhandled. And
one other thing about Maryland, I'm actually going to disagree with you about the defense a little bit.
Okay.
That defense was horrible against the run against Michigan. There's no way around it to me, in my opinion. Blake Corum basically had a field day against Maryland's defense running the ball. So I'm not there with the defense. I do think the passing defense is better than what I expected. But I don't think the running defense is good.
Here's my point, McKee. If you took Maryland over the last 5 to 10 years and you looked at every game that they played, an offense as good as Michigan's is this season, I don't know the last time that they would have held a team down as much as they did this past game. That's my point.
Fair enough. I see that, but that run defense was like the one thing I think was like the one negative walking away from that game. And Blake Corum is an all-time great. He's all-time great college running back, but I'm just happy that the Terps finally showed, like, I could come on here and actually be thrilled to be a Terps fan more than anything. And one other quick note before I let you go, Mark, not involving Maryland but Michigan, and I have a bit of a gripe with Big Noon Kickoff picking Michigan 4 straight weeks. So they have Michigan against Maryland, Michigan against Iowa this week. You want to know what the Big Noon Kickoff game is next week? Michigan at Indiana.
Okay, Michigan, Indiana.
Yeah.
The best they can do, huh? Okay.
Well, it's between that and Ohio State and Michigan State. I would have thought at least that game would have gotten a nod, because I still think Michigan State isn't like horrible, but they definitely have some issues. You also had the Red River Shootout as well. That week as well. I was surprised.
Do we know that's been announced already?
Yep.
Next week, Michigan, Indiana.
Yep. Big noon kickoff, 12 o'clock.
And they could have selected Oklahoma,
Texas, and they could have this upcoming Saturday. I'm surprised it's not Baylor, Oklahoma State, because that's the 3:30 game on Fox.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like 2019 again with them? We're just going to ride. That year it was 1 week was Oklahoma versus whoever they were facing, and the other week was Ohio State, whoever they were facing. Is it just going to be that, and we're just going to do whoever Michigan's facing?
Well, I get Michigan, Iowa versus Oklahoma State, Baylor. I
get it too.
I get it. Big Ten teams draw bigger numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But the next week, Texas, Oklahoma, are we sure that it's a Fox year to carry that game? Don't they go every other year? ABC.
So
Fox?
ABC had it last year.
Okay.
And
I don't remember. Yeah, I do remember. Okay.
I forget what was the Big Noon Kickoff game that week. I think it was a bigger game at the time, but I just think that I just couldn't believe when I saw that. I was like, Michigan at Indiana, and I know Indiana's record isn't bad, but I just I don't think they're a good team, to put it mildly.
No, they're not a good team. They're not a good team.
So,
but they've got a chance on the road against Nebraska. They're only a 5-point underdog. We know what Nebraska does against anyone. So Indiana could be 4-1.
I would pick Michigan to win that game, like 49-10, honestly. But we're getting that's over a week away. I'm worried about these games. The only other issue I have is I gotta figure out a way to watch the Maryland game, because I definitely want to watch Oklahoma State and Baylor, and I also want to watch Alabama and Arkansas as well. So,
well, that's the weekly dilemma facing a college football fan.
Yeah. So I gotta figure that one out, but I'm thrilled to be a Maryland fan. I think Maryland. I honestly think we're going 9-3. I do think we'll lose to Ohio State and someone else, but I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled with what I'm seeing. But thanks for taking my call, Mark. Go Terps. We'll be Michigan State.
Gotcha, McD. Have a good night.
You too.
Our guy McD checking in to talk some Terps. Terps looking good. Terps still lost their Big Ten opener at Michigan, had a golden opportunity to steal a win and keep it rolling here. But good things in store for Maryland. It appears maybe they finally get some wins against the upper division. There's kind of the Maryland. Maryland's kind of the floor/ceiling. They are the mid-level team in the Big Ten Eastern Division. They should beat Indiana this year. They should beat Rutgers, as they usually do. But wins against Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, since Maryland's been a member of the Big Ten, have been hard to come by. I believe they beat Michigan in 2014, their first year in the Big Ten. They beat Penn State a couple years ago. They beat Michigan State once, maybe twice. We're talking about 8 years in the Big Ten. So 0-8 against Ohio State, 1-7 against Michigan, either 2-6 or 1-7 against Michigan State. I believe 1-7 against Penn State. So that's been the difficulty for Maryland football in terms of breaking through the glass ceiling to play with the big boys in the Eastern Division. All right. We've dropped the link there in the live chat. I need to have that in the description section all the time. Need to do that. But it's one of those deals where it's a different link every time. So always forget to do that, but we leave it there in the live chat. So please join the show. Let's talk some college football. I'm going to run through schedule. Let's look at what we have going on starting on Friday night. Of course, there's a couple games tonight, and I got to tell you, I have no idea at this point what's going on in these games. I do need to turn them on here. But starting on, let's look at the two games tonight. So we've got South Carolina State at South Carolina. So, of course, that Saturday game moved to tonight because of Hurricane Ian. And everybody there in Florida, we hope everyone's made it. Hope the property damage is limited. And then, of course, Georgia and South Carolina and the East Coast getting pelted right now as we speak. It's really sad and devastating to watch just the devastation itself. So hope everyone's okay. Please do everything you possibly can as that travels up the East Coast to stay safe, and encourage everyone, all your loved ones and everyone you know, to stay safe, do the best they can to stay out of harm's way. That would be the one thing. I can't think of anything else except for family. Family, and then number two would be those ridiculous hurricanes and tropical storms that will keep me from moving down that way, because it runs through my mind all the time. Because in terms of the temperature, that's where I would like to be. I do want to see the scores tonight. I'm out of it. I've been out, and I've been helping here and there. Ooh, I'm surprised to see this one. BYU and Utah State at 17 all with just seconds left in the first half. Well, going to have to turn that one on, because I did not expect BYU to be challenged in this one as a 25-point favorite, something in that range. So BYU and Utah State, which reminds me, I got to give my picks to you there on Patreon. We will do that late tonight after the show or early tomorrow. My picks on Patreon. We did post Steve Merrill's Under the Radar selection of the week. Hope you guys caught that one on Patreon. He is on a roll. He nailed the first four. His week 1 through 4, perfect. So good for him. Steve Merrill, our guy in Wager Talk. And what we're starting to do with Steve is have him deliver his wagering insight to specific games. So Steve used to join me for years and years and years. For a long time, we've been posting these videos where we go through the top 3 games of the week, the top 3 national games of the week. Steve gives a lot of information, and we post that on the main channel. But what I started doing last week is I thought, no, let's go through as many games as possible. And we're going to post these individual games on the team channel. So be looking out for a betting edge segment on USC and Arizona State, Nebraska, Indiana, Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Rutgers. Shoot, who else did we do? Florida State, Wake Forest, LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Arkansas. We did all those. Check those out on the specific team channels. Yeah, I'm looking at Gary Anderson, who has, of course, been here on the Voice of College Football as a guest a few times. Looking at Gary Anderson interview at halftime on ESPN. He's got to be a bit pumped because his team has been awful with a capital A this year, but they're tied up on BYU here, 17 all. Appreciate seeing a lot of the standbys here, a lot of the core audience. Tim Prangley, Exploring with Ben, Connor Johnson, good to see you, Shoelace Sooner, and others. Excellent, excellent. And again, we've got the link there in the chat. South Carolina leads South Carolina State 36-7. That game on the SEC network. Not going to check that one out, but I am going to tune into the second half of BYU and Utah State. So, an unexpected good game on a Thursday night. Let's check out the action for this weekend, and I'll let you know what's important to me and what I'm thinking about my viewing for the rest of the weekend. Let's go to Friday. And we've got Houston taking on Tulane. That's a 7 o'clock Eastern time game. Texas San Antonio, Middle Tennessee. Ooh. Suddenly, Middle Tennessee gets some respect. Suddenly, when you see the name Middle Tennessee, it triggers, oh, that's the team that whipped Miami. Wasn't even close. Check out the live stream that we did last night with Cam Underwood from State of the U on the Miami channel. He laid it on the line. He got after Mario Cristobal. Just check it out. It's fun stuff. It's good stuff. It's quality stuff. I'm not just talking about trolling and ranting and raving and senseless stuff just because a fan's mad about his team. No, I'm talking about smart stuff from Cam Underwood from State of the U. Check it out on the Miami channel on our Miami Hurricanes live show. We unfortunately had to cancel tonight's show with the wholesome one. But we do have a Hurricanes live show for you, and it is a good listen. Middle Tennessee defeating Miami is a head-scratcher, but beyond a head-scratcher status, the way they did it, head-scratcher status, you would have thought, take the air out of the ball, limit the possessions, typical upset formula. They win the game 20-17. No, they hit on, Middle Tennessee hit on. There was some crazy stat that Cam hit us with, where Middle Tennessee was producing like few explosive plays, and Middle Tennessee hit Miami for four passing plays above 60 yards. Four. They had a 97-yarder, an 89-yarder. Wow, they just ripped the Canes. So taking on Texas San Antonio, so Middle Tennessee either stays on a high or they have a big letdown following the huge win at Hard Rock Stadium. San Diego State, Boise State. Boise State, certainly not the program that we've seen over the last 20-plus years. They lost to UTEP last week 27-10. San Diego State's not nearly as good as they typically are. Okay, New Mexico taking on UNLV. I think our schedule tomorrow night, I believe our schedule tomorrow night is going to look like this because Washington, UCLA, folks. Washington and UCLA, we should be pumped about this. If you love college football, you should want to see this game. I want to see it. Washington's undefeated, and of course, they had the big win against Michigan State a couple weeks ago. Washington has performed on point every week. UCLA is the mystery team in college football. They're 4-0, and their schedule is just set up perfectly for them to get to 4-0. 3 Group of 5 / FCS teams on their schedule, none of them any good. Although I will say for UCLA's defense, week number 1, they beat Bowling Green by 28. They got down early. Then they blew them out in the second half, won by 28. And Bowling Green actually is the team that beat Marshall, that beat Notre Dame, if you believe in the transitive property, 18 times. But UCLA last week played Colorado. Colorado might not win a game this year. We don't know what UCLA is. The record looks great. They've done what they need to do, but that South Alabama game, my goodness, can you imagine if South Alabama would have went to the Rose Bowl and won that game? They should have. UCLA pulled it out on the last play of the game on a field goal, 32-31. So this game, Washington, UCLA, I think what we're going to do is do a little pregame. Think we will do pregame Washington, UCLA. Let's say about 8 or 9 o'clock on it's going to have to be at 9 o'clock. I've got commitments with West Virginia. West Virginia lives at 8 Eastern. Then we'll go with the call-in show at 9. We'll lead right into Washington, UCLA is what we're going to do. And then we'll see if you guys want to talk after the show. We'll see if there's a good response, and we'll see if it's an exciting game, and we may want to go on late night on a Friday night. But, man, I'm ready for this Washington UCLA game. I want to see the Bruins in action against actual football players. So that's no knock on those other 4 teams. I think you get me. You know, I've got respect for all these guys that lace it up and put the pads and the helmets on. But, it's just a different brand of football, different level of football. And UCLA, we got to see them against somebody. All right, that's the Friday night, though. But, man, I like that I like that Friday night slate. Now, if San Diego State and Boise State were what they usually are, that would be a heck of a doubleheader right there. But they're not. It's all about Washington and UCLA. And, of course, Tulane beat Kansas State 2 weeks ago. Then they trip up against Southern Miss. Houston has been a near-miss team week after week after week after week this year. They did beat Texas San Antonio by an overtime score, and then they lost in overtime to Texas Tech. So Houston, I was going to pick off Dr. C. He must not be able to join us. My apologies, Dr. C. I was just about to take your call. But so if you want to call back, that's great. All right, so we will keep going through our Saturday schedule. Let's get it here. I am, as we speak, mulling over how we can produce better content and how we can deliver more interesting stuff here at the Voice of College Football, because, Michigan, Iowa at noon, maybe that warrants a little pregame. Maybe that warrants a little halftime. I don't know. Michigan, Iowa. We'll see how that one goes. But at noon, Dr. C, I'm going to get your call here in 2 seconds. Let's just look at the noon games. Michigan, Iowa, Kentucky, Ole Miss. So Purdue, Minnesota. How am I supposed to watch all 3 of those games? I like those 3. I'm a big fan of those 3 games. Really big fan. I assumed Kentucky, Ole Miss was a night game. That sounds like a 7 o'clock ESPN game is what it sounds like, but it's not. Okay. All right, let's take Dr. C's call because I see another matchup that we got to talk about, but we got to hear from Dr. C first. Hey, man, what's going on tonight? Hello? Dr. C. Dr. C, you with us?
Hey, how's it going, Mark?
I'm good.
Can you hear
What's
me?
going on with you?
Yes,
We
I can hear
got
you.
you. We're hanging in there with you.
I
I
can
think it's a bit.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Seems a bit shaky, but
Oh, not much. No. I will warn you that if
Dr. C.
yeah, I was gonna say it's my internet. I think if my call drops, I'm not mad. It's just my internet.
All right. Well, what you got for us? Hello, Dr.
Can you hear
C.
me?
Yes. One more time, Dr. C, then unfortunately we'll have to let you go.
Oh, you can't. You
Here.
can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Thumbs up. We're not going to have much of a conversation if you can't hear me respond to you. All right, one more time, Dr. C. Go.
All right.
All right. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Dr. C, call back and give it another shot. All right. Unfortunately, we can't wait forever because we know that you guys have things to do and places to be, and you can watch 1,000 other things. 1,000, shoot, you can watch 1,000,000 other things. So I appreciate everybody that joins us every time we fire up the live stream. All right, although we've got a sparse crowd tonight, I don't know what's going on. Everybody's got better plans. I guess the you guys are your social lives have increased significantly here. I'm seeing. Okay, who else is in the live chat? Shoelace Sooner, Billy Tuesday, good to see you. All right, let's get to where we are right now because none of you like me starting at the beginning. There we go. Exploring with Ben. Smash the like button. All right. I've left the link a couple times in the chat. We'll do it again. Please join the show. All right, back to Saturday. Woo! I love this noon, except that kills me. Man, I hate when that happens with, and I'm not even talking about trying to check out Oklahoma take on TCU. TCU's 3-0. Yeah, they haven't beaten anyone. This is their big test. Their big time to show what they're made of. Are they really that good? Yes. Melissa Treewasser was on our Oklahoma live show on Wednesday. Frogs Today, Melissa Treewasser, we've had her on. We used to have her on every Wednesday night. I kind of miss those Wednesday nights going way back. I guarantee nobody watching right now, and that's not that many people for some reason, but nobody watching us right now was around when we used to do those breakdown shows on Wednesday night. We'd go ACC breakdown for an hour. Then we do the Big 12 breakdown for an hour. Then we do the SEC breakdown for an hour. Then we do the Pac-12 breakdown, 4 consecutive hours, conference breakdowns, and we bring on all sorts of good people. But Melissa joined us the other day on our Oklahoma show. I hadn't seen Melissa for a long time. She's on Frogs Today. So check out Oklahoma Live from this previous Wednesday because that was a good conversation on TCU football and Oklahoma, of course. Next caller, let's get it. We got David Greenshield on the line. David, how you doing tonight? David, we can't hear you. David, can you hear me? Maybe it's an issue with people hearing me. Maybe that's the problem.
No, I got it.
Oh,
Can you hear me, Mark?
There you are. We got you.
Yeah, my bad. I may have accidentally hit that mute button. My fault.
No issues. I'm flipping on this BYU Utah State game. Huh.
Yeah, you know what? I actually just noticed that was on. I was actually watching a little bit of the pros earlier. The Cincinnati-Miami game was actually cool.
I'm glad you said that because since they went on the internet, I kind of tuned them out. But at the same time, what I'll do is I'm going to tape the rebroadcast on the NFL Network. I think they show that about midnight, 1 a.m, something like that. Who's playing tonight? Cincinnati and who?
Cincinnati and the Dolphins. Actually, okay. Tua got knocked out of the game, by the way.
Okay, I'm going to DVR that. What do you have to get that?
It's Amazon Prime. I mean, you have a smart TV?
You know what? No, I don't have a smart TV. I've got Amazon Prime, like in terms of an Amazon Prime membership.
Yeah, I mean,
smart TV.
Well, I actually had to go out. I had to get the Fire Stick. I got the Fire Stick, and then I plugged that in, and then I had to pay the monthly to get that. So
it's not that important to me, but I might.
Well, I mean, you know what? As much of a college football fan as I am, the NFL. See, for you, college has surpassed the NFL. It used to be closer to even, right? Or used to be more of an NFL guy.
Ooh, yeah, it used to be like dead even for most of my life, but I kind of make a few dollars doing this and making nothing covering the NFL or talking about the NFL. So,
all right, well, let's talk some college football because I hear that's what you do around here, Mark. So
yeah, we tend to knock it around once in a while.
All right, so I talked a little bit about this with the Pac-12 guys last night. I'm going to throw it out to you.
Yep.
I looked at the line because I was looking at the action on this week's games. And I called them about it because did you see where the line was at on that Washington-UCLA game?
I did not. Let me guess. They're playing at the Rose Bowl in Washington, UCLA. It is, I'm going to say that Washington's a 2.5 point favorite.
Yeah, it was -2 when I saw it. So it may have adjusted. I thought that was a little low, especially for a hot Washington team coming in. Michael Penix is lighting the world on fire. If you look at it, UCLA's beaten Cupcake Central there, Mark. I mean, it's not exactly been murderer's row of opponents.
Yeah, they're on the Michigan plan, but they've taken it to an extreme. Michigan got off the Michigan plan, but UCLA's still on the Michigan plan. But they're going to have to wake up tomorrow night and play some football. So I'm trying to think where I got this information. Somebody mentioned, I don't know if it was on the show. I didn't get to catch too much of our Pac-12 show last night, but it was either there or somewhere else that Washington's got a notoriously bad record at UCLA, which I don't think really affects this game, but I guess they do.
See, I mean, -2 with a top 15 team. I guess I know it's at the Rose Bowl. I just thought I'd, maybe see it as maybe closer to a touchdown. I don't know. I thought that was a little bit low.
I
mean,
I know
what
what you're saying. You're being completely logical about it, but
I mean, Penix is hot right now. I don't know if you've seen those numbers; they're really good.
Sure.
I'm tending to think that Vegas may know something we don't know, and that maybe UCLA could pull that upset. But I was talking to the UCLA fan last night. He was not the most extremely confident, but he thinks they may have a puncher's chance.
A puncher's chance?
Well, he thinks if it's obviously any team's going to pull away, it's going to be Washington. He says if UCLA pulls it out, it obviously would be a very close game, he's thinking.
I'm super impressed with what Washington did against Michigan State a couple weeks ago, but my judgment of that win has been compromised after watching, of course, Michigan State play Minnesota. So I think it's more about Michigan State, that result, than Washington at this point. Again, I still think Michigan State's a competent team and Washington whipped them, but let's not talk about Washington like they're the 95 Nebraska team. Like I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA won this game.
No, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't necessarily either. I expect a close game. I think we're going to see some points in this one. I didn't add that last night, but I got a feeling this could be one where, we could see some points. By the way, the UCLA doing well with that Michigan transfer running back, Charbonnet. Looking pretty good.
Yeah. He had a good year last year.
Yeah. Wanted to get to the Big Ten action. I listened to your clip with Steve Merrill earlier. By the way, I found it interesting. Steve's on the Michigan train. He's got him as a playoff team.
Yes, Steve Merrill. Absolutely. Your guy, Steve Merrill, is 4-0 in his under the radar picks for us.
Well, by the way, call me crazy, and I'm a lifelong Ohio State fan, but I'm taking them this week. I think they cover the 11 this week at Iowa. Although I saw a stat, if I'm not mistaken, have they lost like 5 of their last 6 at Kinnick?
Yes.
I know you guys did the show with Corey earlier, and your Michigan guy. Is that right?
I'm thinking about calling the outright upset.
Are you serious with that offense, Mark?
Yep.
It's prehistoric.
I'm just telling you. I'm thinking about it, contemplating.
I mean, unless see, the only way I could see it is if they start putting the ball on the turf, or if McCarthy starts throwing interceptions. That's the only path to victory I can see for Iowa. Remember, Iowa last year was living off turnovers. That's why they actually got off to that hot start. After
watching Michigan and Maryland last week, what did you come away with in regards to Michigan's status as a football team versus Maryland's status as a football team?
Well, I partially agree with Dace. I think it does speak well for Maryland. I came into the year thinking that Maryland could be a 9-3 football team. In fact, I thought that Maryland could finish 3rd in the East. I was not buying that Penn State would be this improved with their running game. But they are. Although I still have reservations about Clifford in that passing game, as we've talked about on numerous occasions. But I will say this. I mean, I thought Maryland coming into the year had the second best receivers. I liked little Tua. I mean, Loxley's been recruiting well, or better, I should say. They had an experienced offensive line coming back that played pretty well last week. So I mean, you tell me, Mark. I mean, what was your final record prediction, by the way, for Maryland? Did you have them 8-4, 9-3, something like that?
No, I don't even think I had them 7. I might have had them 7-5. I'll look it up while we're talking, but I believe I had 6-6. I had a sweep in non-conference play. I may have had 7-5. I'll give it a look. It was either 6 or 7.
Here's the bottom line: how I feel about Michigan. I've said it from the beginning. I don't think their defense is as good as it was last year. I don't think you lose your 2 most important players, your 3 best players on defense.
Yes.
And
yes.
And be as good defensively. I don't care what Dace is talking about with blitz packages or whatever to generate sacks. I'm not buying it. What I will say is their ceiling is much higher offensively with McCarthy.
Yes.
And I think that's really where they're casting their lot, is that McCarthy can take their offense to a higher level.
Sure.
And if he can, then we can have a conversation. Because as I've told you that many times, I mean, I don't see too many offenses in the Big Ten that can run it and throw it really well outside of Ohio State. I mean, how many have we? I mean, we've talked about this before. How many have we seen truly within the last 10 years of, complete offenses? Maybe that Penn State teams with McSorley and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. How about these Purdue passing attacks the last couple of years?
Well, remember I said both. Combine the running game and the pass.
The pass. I got you. Michigan State 2010 to 15.
I mean, maybe the Langford Connor Cook team in 14 wasn't bad. Yeah. Cook was a pretty good college quarterback, and Langford was a decent tailback. But I mean, I just don't see me now. If McCarthy is that guy, because we obviously know they can run the football, then maybe they could be that team. But we still have to wait and see.
Do you think Maryland's a better football team than Iowa?
Yes. On a neutral field right now, I would take Maryland at least by a touchdown to 10 points.
By at least touchdown to 10 points?
Yeah.
You would give me Iowa and like 8 points against Maryland.
Yeah, I think Maryland, a healthy Maryland team, if they have all their receivers healthy, because I know they got a little beat up after the game, I think they win something like in the terms of 21-10.
See, I think offense tends to bias most of us.
Maybe. I mean, we're in an offensive brand of football nowadays, aren't we? I mean, to a great extent. I mean, Georgia last year was a little bit of an outlier, if we want to be perfectly honest. I mean, and I still have my, I know a lot of Georgia people out there. I still have my reservations to say Alabama might have won that game had Jamison Williams not gotten hurt.
Sure.
I know most Georgia fans don't want to hear that, but
I don't know. Considering that Michigan, it's not like they escaped last week. I don't want to make it sound like that. They had control of the game. They were firmly ahead for most of the game and all of that. It's not like they escaped or they fluked into a win. In none of my analysis that I want to say that. I did point out that they were fortunate 3 or 4 times in that game. And I just, they were at home against Maryland. They are going to Kinnick to play Iowa. And I'm not big on separating home and away. I'm not as big as some people are on that, but it's something. It means something.
Let me throw this back to you, Mark. How does Iowa generate offense? I mean, is Michael Petras, is it Spencer Petras, right?
Petras, yeah.
Yeah. Is he all of a sudden going to morph into Chuck Long circa 1985 and, be this quarterback? Or are they all of a sudden going to start running the ball down their throat? I mean, because barring turnovers, I just don't know how they generate points in this game.
Well, I saw a similar Iowa team that had a offense ranked at 121 in the country go to Maryland and win by 37 points last year.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with you on that point because I think Maryland's a better football team this year than they were last year.
Maybe.
And Iowa's totally lost their offense.
Yeah, it's been ugly. It's been bad. But, I'm not convinced that Maryland's better than Iowa.
Okay. I mean, I just
about elite units at Maryland does nothing that's elite. The best thing about their their team is their passing attack, and it's not elite. It's good. It's really good.
Well, for the Big Ten, it's might be what, the third best passing attack in the Big Ten at worst?
Maybe fourth.
Okay.
I'll take Aiden O'Connell over Talia.
Yeah, and Jones is playing really well at wide receiver right now.
Like when I watched Aiden O'Connell, well, most of us saw him play Tennessee last year and a number of other Big Ten games. But you turn on the tape of Aiden O'Connell against Syracuse in the last 5 minutes of the game, it was like a clinic.
No, he's good.
He was throwing ropes all over the place.
I mean, I've liked mostly what I've seen, other than that one bonehead decision I saw he had at Syracuse.
Sure, he did.
That was really it. And he didn't cost them that game. He nearly brought him back and won. I think it was stupid penalties, as we talked about before.
The last point I'll make, David, is just a simple one that, Iowa's offense it's even hard to describe how bad it is. You're right. But they are elite defensively and in special teams. Their special teams is, and the plays that they make in those two units are like outliers in terms of like what they did against Rutgers last week. They scored 2 defensive touchdowns. Now, if you would name any other team in the country and say they scored 2 defensive touchdowns against, not if it's Georgia against South Alabama, I mean, in a Power 5 game, then I would consider there's some luck there. There's some randomness, but there doesn't seem to be with Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, even watching them last year, Mark, where I think their offense was better than this. I mean, you go back watch the Penn State game or some of their other victories. They got some big turnovers that won them those games.
Exactly.
And well, I mean, eventually
making his first road start in the Big Ten.
Okay, and I guess that would be their path. Is that if McCarthy puts the ball on the turf or throws him a pick or two or does something like that, then maybe. But I just think that them with a running game, I think they can score at least 21 points against Iowa. I do.
Well, sure. Anytime you've got a defense that gets no help from the offense, no matter how good they are, 3 touchdowns isn't a lot.
Right.
You can go into the fourth quarter and it could be 7-0 or 7-3, and your backs could break, and you can only hold the dam so long. Yeah. Oh, it wouldn't surprise me if Michigan scored in the 20s. Absolutely.
That's what I see it. I'm gonna call it right now. I see it 24-10, team up north.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't surprise me. Of course.
I think that's realistic. Want to get to the ACC, Mark. After Clemson surviving, are you more inclined to think that NC State can pull off the upset or less?
Much more.
Okay.
Much more. Clemson, the one thing that you could count on with Clemson was their defensive front. And they didn't have a good game. And Wake Forest, after a few years of getting Sam Hartman thrown around like a rag doll, they figured out how to protect him / run plays to protect him. And I got to think that NC State's the most physically capable team to compete against Clemson in the whole conference.
Okay.
And they've got the quarterback, and they're a Wake Forest, but with like more NFL players. And let's see, the game's at Clemson, but absolutely, I think NC State has an excellent chance to win the game.
Is it me, or is this Clemson defensive line not played like the best defensive line in the country, according to Mark Rogers and Phil Steele and a lot of other folks?
I did say a number of times they have the best defensive line in the country, and I still think they do from an NFL standpoint. But yeah, they weren't good last week. It was the secondary got torched, but the secondary got torched partially because the defensive line didn't get home.
Yeah, I mean, Hartman and those receivers can play at Wake, and they're going to cause some people some problems. I listened to Jordan Bowman, who mentioned as much, and I tend to agree with them. But, I mean, you got to get some kind of a pass rush. You think that it would have been able to generate some type of pressure with as good a front as that's supposed to be. See, now you're of the belief that you think Florida State is that much closer to maybe overtaking them in the ACC.
I think that this is suddenly an interesting. Oh, it would be fascinating had Wake Forest won that game. Then we'd be really like, wow, because, the math situation really hurts Wake Forest because suddenly you lose that head-to-head and you got to win. You got to hope Clemson loses 2 games and you don't get another shot at them. So that completely throws the math into Clemson's favor. But now Syracuse, when Syracuse was no good last year, they took Clemson down to the wire. NC State beat them. Florida State. This is a completely different team that we see week to week with Florida State.
Yeah, this isn't your older brother's Clemson team. I mean, this is not the team we saw a few years ago. I think
most people would still take them in some kind of tournament against all those teams, but it's not a huge gap. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think this conference is going to be real interesting. Want to get to the game, one last game. I know you got a lot of people probably waiting here, but the game that a lot of people are talking about this week, and everybody's talking about it, could be the one game they could lose. What's your feel on Arkansas, Alabama, Mark?
Well, our guy Steve Merrill thinks Alabama's like 22 points better.
Oh, wow.
But I don't. At Arkansas, I thought Arkansas was the better team against Texas A&M last week. I don't think Arkansas really has the caliber defense. Got a good defense. They've lost their best defensive player for the season, Jalen Catalon. So that's a big loss. I don't think they have the type of defense that on a regular basis could handle an Alabama.
See, the interesting thing for me, I just want to throw this out there. Watching Bama, and I think they got Texas caught them early because, you saw some deficiencies in the offensive line play. It didn't look great. And you saw some deficiencies at wide receiver. But I think they're going to get better in both of those units as the season moves along. I just don't know if that's this week. Although, I just think with their defense and Gibbs and Bryce Young, I still think that's too much. I think Jefferson's going to have a hard time against that defense.
He put up 35 last year in Tuscaloosa in a 42-35 game. That was kind of like the Michigan-Maryland game from the standpoint that Alabama was the better team, clearly the better team. It wasn't a nail-biter down to the wire, but it was a one-score game, kind of similar in that way. Now they're in Fayetteville.
See, I just think that this is either a game. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was close, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see if Alabama comes out and makes a statement.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised either. Bama's going to go undefeated, or they're going to lose one game. I can't see them losing 2 games, and I just think that Tennessee and Arkansas are the 2 best equipped teams right now to beat them.
You said that you also thought Tennessee was the best equipped team to give Georgia a good game as well, correct?
Correct.
I still don't know if I'm there on Tennessee, Mark. I know Texas is back, has been a big thing for a while. It seems like Tennessee is back, has been out there as like a thing for a long period of time as well. And I think they got fortunate to win at Pitt. The Pitt quarterback got knocked out. Pitt had injuries on the offensive line. I think Pitt would have pulled that game out.
Well, that doesn't mean I think that Tennessee's well equipped to beat Bama, but I think that they've got a puncher's shot.
Okay.
They went into the fourth quarter like 24-20, 24-17. They were within a score. Right.
Well, every game for Alabama they had last year, they had a ton of close games. They had to survive more than a few. I think it's going to be a great week, Mark. I think we got some interesting matchups this week, my friend, and I'm going to be watching.
the last thing I'm going to say about you possibly dismissing both Iowa and Arkansas.
Okay.
If we go through these weeks, we're seeing 4 and 5 large upsets per week. Now, sometimes they're not the marquee games. They're the, group of 5 playing a power 5. They're the Northwestern Miami of Ohio games. So I'm not saying that we're seeing those among the top 25 every week, but we're seeing 4 or 5 double-digit upsets almost every week.
I think it'll be crazy. I think Fayetteville's going to be interesting. I think that quarterback could cause them a lot of problems, but I just think Alabama is just the complete team. It may be a close one, but I don't see Arkansas pulling the upset.
We
will see.
All right, David, anything else?
No, as always, a pleasure, Mark, to talk college football with you. I'll probably get back with you again on Saturday, my friend. You have a good one.
Appreciate you being here. Thanks, David.
Take care, Mark. Bye-bye.
Our guy, David Greenshield, breaking down his favorite games of Saturday. And again, I have problems with this noon window because there's too many good games, and that always upsets me. Don't like to see too many great games because Michigan, Iowa, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Purdue and Minnesota, I want to see all 3 of those games. And I'm not even counting that I think Kansas State and Texas Tech will be a really good game. And I believe that TCU and Oklahoma, that's only a 6.5-point spread. I think Vegas missed on that one. All right, let's go to Dr. C right here. College football. What's going on tonight?
How's it going, Mark? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, just do me a favor. Just do me a favor in the background. Everybody can hear me twice.
Oh, really? I'm on my phone, so let me see. Oh, okay. Here we go. Is that better?
It seems to be. No,
perfect.
You can still hear me.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Boy.
So anything I say gets echoed about 2 seconds later.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I don't know what that is.
Yeah, because I closed the other window. Interesting. I'm trying on my phone right now because on my laptop it wasn't working. Let's see. No. Is it still echoing?
Well, we have people conjecturing that you might be in the back cave.
Whoa. Let me try that.
All right. No, it's still coming
It's
through.
supposed to have an echo cancellation.
I don't know what to tell you. I never call in from the other side. I could be. Still with us, Dr. C.
Yeah, I'm still here. Any improvement?
No. Why don't you try one more time?
And we're going to catch another call.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Mark.
All right. The real MVP's on the line. What's going on, man?
Hey, Mark. How are you doing this
I'm
fine
good.
Thursday evening?
I know it. BYU's in a little tussle tonight, unexpectedly.
Yeah. That Oregon win against BYU isn't looking as good as it is right now.
True. Let's not.
I know you're a fan of Utah State for some reason, Mark, even though they lost to Weber State. But
I'm not a fan of all of a sudden one team struggling for 2.5 quarters in one game, and we say, okay, that discredits a bunch of other wins. I'm not that fan because, as you well know, we're going to have this all over the country every week. Everybody's going to look marginal at some point.
Oh, yeah, you can look marginal, but make it against a team that doesn't lose to Weber State.
I'm saying that by the end of the season, we're going to have all sorts of examples of teams that – we're going to have all sorts of examples of Alabama barely beat LSU and Auburn last year. Auburn lost to Houston. Houston looked lousy against X, Y, and Z kind of stuff.
Well, I agree with that. I'm just messing with you a little bit. There's a lot of great games this week, Mark, and I am almost completely opposite of your previous caller, the guy from Ohio, the gentleman.
Yes.
Once a year, it feels like there is a week where a lot of top teams fall. There was that week, I think October 8th it was, maybe October 7th, where Texas A&M beat Bama, Baylor beat Oklahoma, and Iowa beat Purdue, Penn State, in a fabulous game. I think this could be that week. I think we're going to see a lot of top teams fall this week. Maybe 3 of the top 5. What do you think about that, Mark?
In the country?
Yeah, 3 of the top 5 teams in the country fall this week.
Well, you got to educate me on who the supposed top 5 teams are in the country, because I don't look at the AP rankings. So
I'm just going by the AP.
I only look at them. The only reason I know the AP rankings is because I got to stare at them on the screen when people talk about teams and they have the number next to the team. That's the only. I never look at the AP rankings. Only if somebody points something out and I want to make fun of them. So I don't know who the top 5 teams are, but I assume it's Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and somebody else in that order.
I think
who's
Bama,
5?
Michigan, Clemson all lose this week.
Bama, Michigan, Clemson against NC State. Okay. Big 3 big dogs lose this week. That would be something.
Yeah, it would be something. And it has happened before. There's been precedent for a lot of good teams losing in one week. And you were mentioning it. I mean, Iowa has an elite defensive team. I know they can't do anything on offense, but Michigan, I believe this is J.J. McCarthy's first start on the road. And I think Iowa can get a few pick sixes. I could see Michigan having 4 or 5 turnovers in this game and squeaking out with a 24-21 win.
You know what? It will be a big deal if we get one of those 3 as an upset. If Clemson loses or Bama loses or Michigan loses, that will still be a big deal if we get one of those 3. But, man, it would be something else to get 2 or 3 of those. I'm right there with you on Michigan has not necessarily arrived just because they had to play one decent team and they beat them by a touchdown at home.
Yeah, and I think Arkansas, elite rushing team, I think they can control the clock. I think they can dominate the lines of scrimmage. And I think they can pound Bama and just run it down their throats. I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the game we look at the time of possession and Bama only has the ball for 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty difficult recipe to follow through on. But 40 to 20 is a bit difficult. But I hear you. That's the way to get there. That's definitely Arkansas has got to be able to run the ball. They're not Mike Leach, air raid, let's throw it down 65. Yeah, that's not their game. So KJ Jefferson, they want to keep him in the 25 pass range and let him run around. And the 2 backs that they have are really good, Rocket Sanders and Dominique Johnson. And yeah, I kind of like Arkansas to keep this close too.
Yeah, and Alabama, resume-wise, Mark, what has Alabama done this year to say they are a top 5 team?
What have they done? Okay, they beat Texas in a game they got outplayed. They won by 1 point, then Texas turned around and lost to Texas Tech. Well, no, they haven't done, and then they just completely annihilated a lot of really bad teams.
Right. I mean, I think it would be natural for any human being to see a gigantic step up in competition and be startled by it. Now, I don't think that'll be as big as a problem for Alabama, but this is going to be by far the best team they've played all year. Yes. And Alabama has a history of underperforming on the road recently.
I don't know if they're by far. I don't know that Arkansas is that much better than Texas.
Well, I can agree with that. I think Arkansas is a touchdown to 10 points better than Texas, but
okay.
maybe by far is a little too much for that.
Okay.
And I also think Texas should have beat Alabama if their quarterback was healthy. So it's not like Bama's an invincible juggernaut.
That's a great point. I think people need to remember that, regardless of what happens to Texas the rest of the year, that, yeah, Quinn Ewers was carving them up, and he only played one quarter. And then Hudson Card was carving them up and running around, making them look silly. And then he hurt his ankle, and he was basically had to be a pocket passer the rest of the game because he was noticeably limping. Like, Texas was severely hamstrung in that game. And they got a bad call in the end zone against Bryce Young. It should have been a safety.
Right, and they still only lost by 1 point. Alabama needed a game-winning drive, and if the defender for Texas didn't run past Bryce Young and just whiff on a tackle, Texas probably wins that football game.
Yeah, that almost assuredly would have ended the game. There was only like 15 seconds left in the game, and that tackle would have been made at like midfield. Like, it would have been desperation time for Bama. Yep.
Yeah, and I trust Sam Pittman as a head coach not to time management and mental stuff like that, where other teams seem to have been failing recently.
Yep.
With Alabama. So I think he can levy off the psychological factor of Nick Saban, Alabama. But the final game, Clemson versus NC State, I just don't think Clemson's that good this year as a top 5 team. I think they're a top 20, top 15 team. I think their defense is about 10% worse than last year. And I think their offense is probably 10% better this year. But I just think NC State's just better. So,
for as good as the season's been so far, how much more topsy-turvy would it be right now if Wake Forest could have just made one more play and beaten Clemson, and Texas could have made just one more play and beaten Alabama?
Oh, that would have been huge, and it's part of why college football is great, but we got to remember last year, Wake Forest got crushed by Clemson. There was no facet at any point in the game where Wake Forest had a shot against Clemson. And this year, I mean, Clemson's defense was, I don't want to say horrific, but they were really bad, especially by their standards against Wake Forest. And if NC State can score 28, 31 points, are we confident Clemson's defense can score that, or Clemson's offense can score that much against NC State's defense?
Well, we saw Clemson produce last week. I got to kind of see that again, because where was that offense all of last season and the beginning of this season? We haven't seen that Clemson offense since Trevor Lawrence got drafted. And all of a sudden they're scoring 51 points. And the thing about that game as well is that DJ had a really good game. He made some key throws and all that. But, you know, that was a game that I watched. I had it on. I wasn't like just locked on that. There were other good games, so I was watching. And then when we had our Clemson guy on this week, I pulled up the box score, and he only went 11 of 18. It's not like he hit 35 of 40. He just looked good for him. And they won because they ran the ball. They had 200-yard rushers in that game. Shipley and Pace both had way over 100 yards rushing. I don't know if they can do that against NC State.
Right, and if Clemson's offense looked good against literally any other team, not named Wake Forest, I would believe it more. But last year, Clemson's offense was horrendous. And Wake Forest gave up like 30 points against them. So I don't know if that's an indictment on Wake Forest's defense or an improvement of Clemson's offense. I think Wake Forest defense could just be really, really, really bad.
Yeah, it's not great, that's for sure. They gave up 36 to Liberty the week before.
Yeah, so I'm not trusting that. And Ole Miss and Clemson both played Georgia Tech. So they got a common opponent. Who looked better? Yeah.
That Clemson-Georgia Tech game, even though it finished, if somebody just looks up the final score, is 41-10. It was a 14-10 game midway third quarter. Like they just didn't blow their doors off. Ole Miss just was on cruise control from the first play of the game. They just wiped them out.
Right. And I think so. What would happen if all three of those teams lost? What would the perception of college football be at that point?
Wow. Well, the ACC would be just totally like, wow, up for grabs. And obviously NC State would have the inside track with the big win in their hand against Clemson. But it would suddenly be like, wow, is the NC State Florida State game's going to be big, and NC State Wake's going to be big. And, suddenly we all, most of us have it on our heads that Clemson's still the king. They still have a wide margin over everyone. And they survived a scare last week. So from a performance standpoint, from an evaluation standpoint, I think we should all take warning on that game. But from just a pure wins and losses, well, Clemson got by Wake. That's a key game. Got by it. They got their win. But they lose to NC State, then kind of all bets are off on that's like a 4-team race. Who knows?
Yeah, and if Clemson does lose this week, I would favor Florida State. And at that point, if Florida State beats Wake, Clemson doesn't look good. Is it a dark horse playoff game? I'm saying dark horse. NC State versus Florida State?
Sure it is. Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. Mark, what final few questions. What under the radar game are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, hey, let's look at this. Let me I'm going to grab the schedule on the other screen here. Oh, shoot. Just jumped to the NFL on me. I'm going to go with under the radar. And how about your game at noon? That's a big game.
Oh, yeah. Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Do you consider Minnesota Purdue under the radar?
I would consider there's 5 games that are really being talked about. The 3 I mentioned, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma State, Baylor. So any game that's not those 5, I would consider under the radar.
Okay, here's one for you. That again, I don't really consider it under the radar for this audience, but it makes me scratch my head about what the Pac-12 is doing. Okay, let me back it up here on our screen. I'll get everyone lined up. Everybody check out the top game on the screen there. Utah's playing Oregon State. That could be an excellent game. And they're playing at 2:00 Eastern time. So they're playing at Utah's not Pacific Coast time. So it must be a noon game for them. They're playing on the Pac-12 network. So this is the second consecutive week that one of the best matchups in the conference, not for the week, for the entire season, is being played on the Pac-12 network. Is the Pac-12 trying to disguise or make secretive their improvement this year? So somebody's made either a stupid decision or they've walked themselves into a contract that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if Oregon State outright won that game. They looked very impressive against USC.
Yep.
I'm a believer in Oregon State. Now, I don't think they pull it off, but it wouldn't shock me at all if I see the final score being like 31-28.
Here's your under the radar game, DeReal. Iowa State at Kansas.
If Kansas wins that game 5-0, with how crazy the Big 12 is, would they be the Big 12 favorite?
I think the winner of the Baylor-Oklahoma State game is the Big 12 favorite. Back to your comment about Bama's resume, who's got a better resume, Bama or Kansas?
Kansas, easy.
Yeah, well, exactly. They do. They just do.
Yeah, Kansas has got one of the best resumes in the country. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Kansas.
if this all was evaluated fairly, Kansas would be ranked ahead of Alabama. Somebody has them ranked ahead of Alabama.
Yeah, I know, Mark. And you've got some team from the SEC East known as Kentucky, another basketball school ranked right below Alabama. So, I mean,
well, Kentucky's had to take a bit of a hit here in recent weeks, taking on Youngstown State and barely struggling past Northern Illinois.
well, I mean, that's true. That's true. But I thought our win over Florida would have been the difference maker. We beat them by 10. Alabama rolling the struggle bus against the only team they've played that's actually any good in Texas. But, I mean, that'll sort itself out this weekend when I believe Arkansas beats Bama. So,
yeah, it's a great week. It is a great week.
yeah, that's all I got for you, Mark. Hit the like and subscribe button. Come on, Kentucky. Beat Ole Miss. Maybe 1 versus 2 matchup, Kentucky versus Georgia.
Ooh, yeah. All right, DeReal. Thanks, man. Going to remind everyone what DeReal reminded everyone of. We got an Amazon link in the description section. Actually, Amazon just paid us here, the Voice of College Football. We just got our monthly payment from Amazon today. I should pull that one up. $28. So we are appreciative of that. I'm not necessarily going to print it and hang it and frame it. We're not to that degree yet, but let's go tenfold on that next month. How about that? Let's Voice of College Football, the Amazon link. Please grab it. Use it when you go to Amazon. It's in the description section of every video. Also, just please tell people that we're here talking college football, and we pretty much made it a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night call-in show every week. Lemansky, thank you so much for the super chat. So Lemansky says, from Joel Klatt, I don't know if they were having a conversation or what, but after the top 3 rated teams, the difference between the teams down the list is very narrow. Top 3 teams dominate the 5-star gets. All right. Sounds like what I've said about 94 times. Same thing. Same thing. Top 3 teams in the country are the top 3 teams in the country until proven otherwise. We know who they are, and they're better than everybody else. After that, I can name 15 teams that may just continue to stay on that next level, or somebody may be able to not necessarily. I don't know that anybody's going to join that 3. But, of course, there's going to be a 4th playoff team. So is it USC? Is it Oklahoma State, Baylor, Penn State, Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky, Clemson, NC State, Florida State, Middle Tennessee? So, Lemansky, thank you for that. All the respect in the world for Joel Klatt, but I don't think that's news to anybody. Don't think that's one of Joel Klatt's better takes right there. It's just pretty much obvious to everybody. Okay. Next up here at the Voice of College Football, we got our buddy Michael. How's it going, Michael?
Not bad, Mark, and yourself?
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit on us, Michael. I don't know if we're going to hang on to this one.
Can you hear me?
Just fine. Appreciate you being here. What's going on tonight?
No, but I just want to get your key about what do you think Purdue has to do to beat Minnesota? Stop the run or stop the pass?
Stop the run. I would load up on the run. I know Tanner Morgan's coming off 23 for 26 and was the co-offensive player of the week in the Big Ten, but still, there's no question that it's more difficult to throw the ball than it is to pass the ball for anybody. So Minnesota's built on running the ball. They still are, but what makes them so dangerous this year is that they have balanced the offense, and PJ Fleck talked about that all off season, that was a goal after being the team that ran the ball more than any team in the country outside of the military academies last year, that they wanted to be more balanced, and they are, but they're still a run-first team. And if you don't stop their run, then Aiden O'Connell's going to be standing on the sideline. And hopefully he's not standing on the sideline for the whole game.
That is true. That's what
we don't really know. What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm kind of at liberty not to say right now, Mark. But
Okay.
anyway, now as far as
Got some
Purdue-
inside information, Michael?
just a wee bit, but not much.
Very
But
nice.
anyway, one thing I'm trying to figure out now on the flip side, what does Minnesota have to do to stop Purdue, being that they've been having more success running the football this year? Still have to throw the football, you think?
Yes. If I'm Minnesota, I
Yes.
dare Purdue to run the ball. Yeah, I've got a 6-7 man box. Like I don't overload in the box. I let them try to think they can run the ball, because that's going to, even if they run it somewhat successfully, that's going to be less pass plays to defend, less chances of explosive plays against me. And I just think that Minnesota, unless something drastically changes to prove otherwise, Minnesota can stop Purdue on the ground, even overplaying the pass. I would overplay the pass if I'm Purdue or Minnesota. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, and stuff like that myself. But no, I was just asking stuff like that because if they can run the ball, who knows what they can do, especially with Dayton and stuff like that. But anyway, I was just wondering stuff like that. So, what's your top 5 games of the week, Mark, that you're looking forward to Saturday? So I just got in
Top
here.
5 games of the week. I think you requested this a few weeks ago, doing a top 5.
That you're going to be catching this weekend.
Well, shoot, right out of the gate at noon. There's 3 games. I want to see it all at the same time. I'm going to be a frustrated fan trying to watch Michigan, Iowa, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Minnesota, Purdue all at the same time. So those, hang on. I don't know if all 3 of those are going to make it. Man, it is a tough week to pick 5 games. There's about 10 great games.
That there is.
Baylor, Oklahoma State is one of the more important games of the week. I really think Florida State Wake could be a great game. Evenly matched teams, very different teams. And really the night window is nothing special. Most of the really good games are during the day. Who in the world's playing at night?
Well, you got Clemson and NC State, right?
Okay, there we go. Clemson, NC State. So here are your 5 games. I'm going to go Clemson, NC State. I'm going to go Purdue, Minnesota. I'm going to go Baylor, Oklahoma State. I'm going to say Alabama, Arkansas, and what's the other one?
Michigan,
I want to think Michigan and Iowa. That's a game of interest for me. It could possibly not be a great game. Well, they all could possibly not be a great game, but that's roughly the 5 or 6 games right there.
Last thing before I let you go, with Purdue, Minnesota, is it an elimination game for either team Saturday?
Minnesota, Purdue, elimination. No.
As far as winning the Big Ten, well, I would think it would be for Purdue because they would have 2 losses in the conference.
Sure. You don't think the Big Ten winner in the Western Division could be 7-2?
It could, but I don't know. I'm thinking 8-1 gets it done, or 9-0. But we'll see. Well,
you
can't be
you
9-0
think somebody's going to go 9-0 in the Big Ten West?
I think Minnesota could do it. But they are prone.
I don't think they're going to do it. I would love them to do it because if they go 9-0, then they're undefeated in the Big Ten championship game.
Yep, and then you're gonna have
Daniel Henry saying the same thing. Have you guys? I understand it's possible. Of course, it's possible. We saw an Iowa team in 2015 that wasn't that good. They were like top 25 good because of a favorable schedule. We saw that team go undefeated, 12-0. So Minnesota could do it. I get it. The Daniel Henry's letting me know the same thing, but the probability of Minnesota going undefeated is minuscule.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. All right,
Daniel, I'm going to disagree with you. It's not very possible. No, it's not. You don't follow the the probabilities in college football very well. We typically have one, maybe two undefeated teams every year.
Mm-hmm. But no, I see what Daniel's saying and stuff like that, especially with the schedule for Minnesota and stuff. But one last thing before I last thing before I let you go, because David, you and Dave brought up the other night, Green Shield. When can we get a Big Ten thing like the Pac-12 going?
As soon as somebody presents to me a reason to put it on.
Okay.
When we've got good people putting it together and they carry the load and they put together a good-looking product.
If I knew how to get it going, I would start it, because I think we got enough interest to get it done.
Oh, absolutely. We've got enough interest. I will, if any team of conference people, meaning the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, want to put together the type of show that Tony and Tim and Rick and those guys are putting together, I don't want to leave anyone out, because I don't know exactly who, but besides Tim and Tony, I don't know who's behind that. So I don't want to leave out credit, but those Pac-12 guys, if anybody wants to put together a show of that caliber, absolutely. I will air it here. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I was just wondering stuff like that, but that's something I can talk to you down the road and stuff. All right, I'm sure you got a few other callers to get down the road. Mark, have a great one. Catch you after the post-game show Saturday.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. And last few callers have mentioned the post-game show on Saturday. We will be here Friday night. So we'll be here Friday night. I believe we're going to do a pre-game show before Washington UCLA. It's what we're going to do, because I want to see that game. It's a big game. UCLA could prove something. Washington could continue to prove something, but UCLA's got, welcome UCLA to the 2022 college football season. It took until October, but we got to see it. So welcome to the season, UCLA against Washington. I'm looking forward to that game from the Rose Bowl at 10:30 Eastern. So I believe I know, because I'm kind of boxed in from a time perspective, because we've got West Virginia live from 8 to 9. And so 9 o'clock, we're going to go with our pregame show, and then we'll all take in UCLA and Washington. Yeah, I think on the surface, this is the best schedule of games we've seen. The games at night are strangely weak. We got one really good one, NC State and Clemson. Texas, West Virginia. Could be a decent game. LSU, Auburn. Tulsa could have something to say against Cincinnati. They played Ole Miss well last week, but it's a pretty weak primetime schedule. And the late games, courtesy the Pac-12, they're on ESPN and FS1, don't offer us much. And the Pac-12 network, when you've got Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, USC, and Stanford, Oregon, not much there. Nebraska and Indiana, two weak teams on the Big Ten network at night. But the noon and 3:30 windows are stout. And I know everybody's loving Minnesota right now, and I get it. Would I love to see Minnesota make a run? Yeah, that would be fun to watch. I want to see teams that we haven't seen in the playoff mix get there. Minnesota, Baylor, Oklahoma State, USC, NC State, Florida State. I know they made the playoff in 14, but you know what I mean. Teams that have been down or just never considered. Tennessee. Would love to see those teams get in the mix. Would love it, but I will say it right now. I might be wrong, of course, because there's a possibility. They've got 4 down, 8 to go. Minnesota's not going undefeated. Okay? You can all call me wrong if they go undefeated, of course. You can call me wrong. It's possible. Yes, it's possible. There's not a team on Minnesota's schedule that they cannot beat. Who are they playing in the Eastern Division? I know that they've got a light schedule in the East. They've already played Michigan State. They've got at Penn State and Rutgers. I'm saying it right now. Minnesota is not going undefeated. Okay. Would I want them to go undefeated? Yeah, it would be a great story. I would love for them to go undefeated. This BYU team, I would have loved to have seen them go undefeated, not because I like BYU or care anything about them, but it would just been an interesting story. It would have been intriguing to watch. You can get my picks on Patreon. Please sign up on Patreon, but much better than that is, of course, we've got our Discord on Patreon. So go to Patreon, search MarkRogersTV, and join us there. Check out the ticker down at the bottom there, because, man, we got about 90 folks on Patreon. I am pleased with that. We have increased from about 35 at the start of the season to 90. But let's get about 1,000 in there. That would be phenomenal. 1,000 people in Patreon. Please go to Patreon, search MarkRogersTV, and you can ask anybody who's in the chat right now. Exploring with Ben's in there, Tim's in there, whoever else is in there from the Patreon, that they love it. It's great chat. Anything I can do to improve it, you just let me know. So I send you a little letter, let you know, hey, welcome. Here's your Discord link. Here are the other features you get. You get Steve Merrill's under the radar selection each week. Steve Merrill from Wager Talk. He's 4-0 against the spread. His 4 selections. You get my picks. They haven't been the best this year, but I'm still over 500 against the spread, and the best is yet to come. So I am consistently near 60% against the spread, 80% straight up. That's the 40-year record. So I believe we will hit those marks. So yeah, join us on Patreon. And again, I get exclusive content there per request. And I'm always open to further recommendations and suggestions and requests. There it is, Exploring with Ben, right on cue. Please join us in Discord. $5 a month. These guys are in there talking college football all the time. And I apologize, I should be in there more. I used to go in there every day, and now it just slips my mind. But I need to get in there as well. But we've got you covered with college football discussion, and they chat about all other stuff in there. So we've got a national channel. We've got an ACC channel. We've got a Big 12, Big 10. We've got the 5 conferences all covered. We got those chats. And then, like I've said many times, if we get, like, let's say we get this big run on USC, you guys want to make a USC channel? We'll make a USC. We can always add more channels. When I say channels, I mean chat rooms. Not to confuse anyone. I'm not talking about my YouTube channels. Talking about chats within Discord. So join us there. And I want you guys to communicate to me what we can do better here and on Patreon. All right. Something I've wanted to do the last few weeks is produce preview videos, because I know that we can do preview videos better than anybody out there if I put my mind to it. So going into the season, I produced Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Utah, Florida preview videos for week 1, and they did extremely well. You know, they did 28,000 views, something in that range. And I should be producing, I need to get on that and release those early in the week and take maybe the 3 biggest games or the 4 biggest games of the week and produce preview videos and release those and get those out for everyone. So I will do my best. It's been a bit of a struggle producing content and keeping all these team channels going at the same time. It sometimes compromises the content, unfortunately, because we're kind of a conveyor belt here. We just crank out content, sometimes compromises the quality. I probably shouldn't tell you that. If you don't notice, you don't notice. But by our standards here at the Voice of College Football, yes, we want better content. Had a super chat coming in from Shoelace. Shoelace, I apologize. I had your first super chat posted I don't believe I read it though, but I had it posted for a long, long time. So thank you so much, Shoelace, for your super chat contribution here, saying any chance the OU live channel can be moved to the evening. It's impossible for me to watch during the day on Wednesday. If not, any chance you let more talent in for more shows. Okay, there's a great topic right there. And as soon as I say this, people are going to leave names in the chat. Don't do that. I'm not going to see them. They're going to get lost as soon as this thing posts. I'm not going back and going through the live chat for names. Go either send me an email, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. It's easy to remember, MarkRogersTV at Gmail, or just go to the comment section of any video, because I look at all the comments. I know you may not think that because I don't respond to as many as I should, but it's difficult to do that with 25 channels. So I do see all the comments. So go to the main channel. You're right here already, and go to any video and just tell me. So what Shoelace is saying right here is he wants to see other talent, other guests, other commentators on our Oklahoma show. Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern time, by the way, with Jason Ray, our guy Jason. We've done it 82 consecutive weeks. We've got an Oklahoma show, so please join us. So we'll bring other. Yes, I want more perspective, different perspectives from quality people. Always looking for that. And that in no way is a knock against anybody that we have on our current shows. We just want to provide different perspectives and hear different voices from different people. Absolutely. So for any of the shows that we do, Miami, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska, any of the shows, let me know who you want to hear on those shows. USC, any of those. And what we are doing during the season is I'm looking for a media guest from the opponent for that week. For example, during the USC show, we brought on Michelle Gardner from no, she couldn't make it. We had a Arizona State guest. I can't remember, but he was really good. He was from Rivals. The Arizona State guy from Rivals, we brought him on the USC show. So I'm constantly looking for, we had the Indiana guy from Rivals. We had him on the Nebraska show. We had our Michigan guys, Justin Rowe from Blue by 90 was on the Iowa show. We had Corey Bratta on the Michigan show. So we are constantly looking to bring the opponent media onto those shows because it makes for lively banter between the two teams that are playing that week. But if you want to see different guests on here at the Voice of College Football, we'll do that. I had a few people ask me this week or make the request that they just want to see my videos. Like they just want to see and obviously our guests are amazing, but they were like, Mark, you need to make a what do they call those? Anyway, there's like a section on your YouTube channel that's just your videos, just your analysis. And I'm like, well, I really can't do that. I can't formulate anything on YouTube that's going to divide and take out just my videos. But I do believe going forward that we're going to have more just my analysis, big topics, national topics here on the main channel. And I'm going to do my best to try to keep. So for example, I didn't have any videos and I just had done so many shows on all the other team channels that I didn't have anything to post here the last couple of days since I did the conference rankings and the top 25 that actually makes sense. And so I was just itching to have some content here on the main channel. So I took our Arkansas conversation, I put it on here, and guess what? It bombed. Not because Ty Hudson's not good, because he's phenomenal. Love Ty Hudson talking Arkansas football, and Arkansas videos sometimes do great on here. This one, nobody watched it. So that's a waste of time. That's a waste of effort. It also hurts the channel. If you know anything about YouTube, if you post a video and it bombs, then YouTube kind of like punishes you for a while. So that unfortunately hurts. So I gotta stay disciplined, and you're gonna see some of you may not like it, but you're gonna see a lot more of just me on the main channel. You're gonna see all those other guys on the team channels. That's what they're there for. Because we're going to keep it clean and to the point here. Big topics, national topics, hard hitting. All right. But Shoelace, thank you so much for that. So I hope you understand that. If you want to see other personalities on our channels, just tell me who they are. And like I've said this before, if they're difficult to get, you guys have more influence than I do. Collectively, you do. You know, if I reach out to Joel Klatt, guess what? Joel Klatt doesn't know who I am, even though he would find out, like Phil Steele and others, that if he did come on, great college football conversation, right? It's like Phil Steele. Phil Steele's a nice guy, gave me a shot. Shoot, the first time I had Phil Steele on, I probably had 200 subs. And Phil Steele came on. Guess what? I can always get Phil Steele on because he knows he's going to have a great college football conversation. And I even made a promo out of it because he's like, you know, I love coming on your show because I know you know what you're talking about. And he said that like 3 times during our conversation, which, you know what that tells me? He goes on a lot of shows and he's kind of like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. So yeah, let's get some good guests on, and we are constantly looking for top analysts to come on here. Absolutely, absolutely. So Shoelace Sooner, thank you so much for the contribution, and that brings up a great topic. You're getting me fired up. Getting me fired up. It's probably a good thing that I'm getting a little perturbed and angered and a little bit frustrated concerning the channel here, but that's a good thing. It'll shake me out of mediocrity here. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dependent Fanatic, thank you so much for the kind comments. And I know that you guys often leave very nice comments in the chat, and I don't get to read all of them, but I appreciate that. The guests are great, but anything with the voice of college football involved is great. Thank you, Dependent Fanatic. A Michigan fan. This is phenomenal. I think Michigan's our biggest fan base. I'm going to call it right now. You know, we had our little contest earlier this year where I took down emails. I had you guys email me, basically, is what happened. And see, for all those people that thought I was just collecting emails to bother all of you, has anybody received any emails from me? No. I'm not saying I will never email you, but no, it would be for something very special. And we started collecting, getting those emails in with your favorite teams. Like a year ago. Have I emailed anybody since then? No, nobody. So man, I'm still collecting that list. I still have a list. So if you've not emailed me to let me know your favorite team, and if you're trying to get 2 votes in for your team, it's not going to work because I've got a list of the person and their vote. So you can't vote twice. I'll catch it. But hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail, because what I would love is, with 37,000 subscribers, I would love to know that 3,000 are Michigan fans and 3,021 are Auburn fans and whatever. I would love to have a near, that's impossible to get a truly accurate count to a T, but I would love to have a fairly accurate count on what fan bases are represented here at the Voice of College Football. So hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail and just say, and a lot of you were very nice to fill me in on your history of becoming a college football fan, or whatever you want to tell me is great. But let me know, hey, I'm Tim, USC fan. Hey, I'm David Knight, Notre Dame fan. So hit me up, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. I'm still keeping that list. Let's see what the list looks like. We've not called that out for a long, long time. Maybe I'll post these. Maybe I will post these again. So, man, where is that? Oh man, it's buried because I built so many documents with all these post-game shows. Where is that? Is it there? No. Shoot. I'm going to have to title it something that I'm going to be able to find it. We unfortunately have had to revamp our Voice of College Football site. So I don't necessarily recommend that you check out our site now. What happened there was, unfortunately, sometimes you have a business relationship with somebody and it kind of goes south. And unfortunately, I got kind of duped on that one. Somebody was very kind to come out of nowhere and get a web developer and build our Voice of College Football site. But then they all of a sudden, out of nowhere, said, you're going to have to do something with the domain. We're not going to develop it anymore. We're not going to do anything. So they left me high and dry out of nowhere. And so I had to transfer the domain. And then our boy, Joey Foster. Joey, thank you so much for that. But Joey's not a web developer, but Joey saved our site by just getting the domain transferred and getting something on there. So we do have thevoiceofcollegefootball.com. It's a site, but I don't want you to go there. Other than Matt Zemek is writing some stuff, and so is Keith Eichholz is writing some really good articles. That's all we've got there, but it's ugly. It doesn't look good. And we had it polished and looking good. So now we're kind of starting from scratch again. But we will have some great content there. Probably going to take until the off season where I got time to really focus on the website. Where is our list of fan bases? May have to go really dig in here to find that. Shoot. Thought I'd be able to find that, but I've built so many documents trying to keep track of all this. Oh, look at this. Tim's showing up. Tim, what's going on tonight?
Oh, wait, hold on. Too fast. I got to mute. Hold on. Sorry about that.
You're good. Do whatever you have to do.
Oh, hey, what's up, Mark?
Not too much. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good because I'm just filling out. Us knuckleheads, we have our pick'em game we have going on in the Discord, and currently I'm 1 point behind One Scoop John and I think it's Tide Guy. I'm 1 point behind them, so I'm in third place.
Nice.
But I'm gonna need some help because and I'll take chat help as well. I know yours are kind of. You keep your picks locked away a little bit, but maybe you could throw me a couple bones here because
I can.
Let's see. So let me pull. I have it right here.
Well, let me ask you this: are you guys picking these games against the spread?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
All ATS.
All right.
So my big one I'm stuck on because I'll admit my ignorance on both teams. We got SMU at Central Florida. So it's Central Florida -3.5. It's a hard one.
Yeah, that is a hard one. How many games are you guys predicting if you go all the way down to SMU and UCF?
It's pretty random. It was Will who set it up. We got a lot of the top 25, a lot of Pac-12 in here.
We'd have to go like 20 games, at least 20 games deep for me to select that one.
Let's see. We're we're probably closer to 30 some odd games.
Oh, nice. You guys are serious.
29 picks actually. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't have a great. I know that Tulsa played Ole Miss really well last week. Really well.
Okay.
You know, they got it to within 35-27 with 10 minutes left, and they just couldn't score the last 3 possessions, but they gave up. They had a really odd defensive game. They got burned for 35 in the first half and gave up nothing in the second half. And 35-27, which I think Ole Miss is really good. So that's pretty good outcome. UCF lost to Louisville, who's not that good, not nearly as good as Ole Miss. You say the game's at UCF?
Yeah, at UCF. 3.5 point favorite at home over us. So basically it's a pick'em game, right? Probably just giving them the home field advantage.
Yeah, if you're thinking of it that way.
And even more so, it's gonna be probably on some muddy, sloggy field. So I don't know. I guess we have, to be fair, saying UCF win and cover. But
the strange thing about the way Tulsa plays is they came into the game against Ole Miss with the number one passing offense in the country, but they didn't pass well against Ole Miss. So I don't know what that tells us.
But that's also SMU. The game's SMU.
Oh, why do I keep saying Tulsa? SMU. You probably got it right. I probably got it wrong. I did see SMU's last 10 minutes against Maryland. Then they lost to TCU. SMU at UCF. Oh, man. See, if I'm just shooting in the dark, I tend to take the points and say, if this is a really good game and it comes down to a last-second field goal, then, I'm good.
Yeah, this one, I'm saying I'm 1 point out. I never thought I'd be this close to the top of the table after 4 games, because who we got in there. We got Will, and like I said, Tide guy. D4 was in it, but he couldn't continue because he missed a couple of the picks. I was worried about him. We got Jordan in there, so I mean, it's just some ballers in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
people know what they're talking about. Yeah.
All right, so I had UCF. Then the game got postponed and everything, and maybe some drama. But I'm just gonna stick with that. Okay, here's the other one.
Are they playing that game on Sunday?
Yeah, they got postponed.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go with this one. How about where did you go? Here's another game I absolutely know. Talk about going deep. Ready? So you got Western Kentucky versus Troy.
Oh Lord.
I know. See what I mean? This is where I'm stuck trying to fill this stuff out.
Did you see Western Kentucky's score last week?
No.
They beat FIU 73-0. That's a team in their conference.
Okay.
Against Troy. And Troy, of course, took App State down to the crazy Hail Mary play.
Yeah, so Western Kentucky's at home, and they're a 5-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to lay the 5 with Western Kentucky?
Yeah. Yeah, I would lean that way.
All right, now this game, I'm kind of stuck in my head just because I have too much in my head, but you'll know these two teams. This won't be this isn't coming out of left field, okay? I promise. Yeah. This one, okay. We got Kansas as 3-point home dogs to Iowa State.
Ooh.
And I've gone back a couple times on this one.
Yeah. How long is Kansas going to keep this up?
Yeah.
That's a good one right there. They're getting points at home. I don't think Iowa State's a team that's going to go run away from anyone. So obviously you could be dead right on this, and it could be 20-20 with 2.5 minutes left, and Kansas scores the game-winning touchdown and you lose it. But in terms of the probabilities are, I'm saying if they play 100 times, that Kansas, they're going to win their share, plus they're going to lose some excruciatingly close games. Like, it's more Kansas at home. I just think the probabilities are in your favor that they either just win the game or it's such a close game that they lose by 1 or 2 points. And 3 is a push.
Yeah, 3's a push. I think the Tide guy's going Jedi mind trick on me. Because I've got Kansas. He said it's too. Hey, Tide guy's too early. I don't start getting drastic. It's like going for 2 in the second quarter. I still got plenty of time to get those points back. I don't want to be throwing away any points. So it's only week 5.
All these games are equal weight, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm gonna keep Kansas. It is a coin toss. See, that way, actually, if you think of it this way, Jeff, then I don't lose any points to you. So no matter what, that toss-up game, we're gonna stay even. We're just gonna stay even on that one. All right, and last one, because I don't like the line. I have Minnesota getting 12.5 at home over Purdue.
Well, you know why that point spread looks the way it does is because Purdue's quarterback Aiden O'Connell didn't play last week and he's questionable and nobody has any idea whether he's playing. Although our guy Michael Hogue says he's got inside information, but you might want to hit up Michael for the big scoop because there's no way that point spread is anywhere close to 12.5 points if Aiden O'Connell is healthy and everyone knows he's playing. The game's at Purdue. So that's
What was
the
the
big
injury?
wild card.
You know the injury? What was
It was some kind of something with his ribs. It's a rib injury.
Okay.
So throwing the football. Yeah, put it this way. He got hurt like in the second quarter of the Syracuse game, and he was like lights out in this. He threw for 460 yards in that game, had a great second half. So he played with it. But then they held him out last week. But ribs, that doesn't heal quickly. That's something that could hang around for the whole season.
Minnie's giving me more of sorry. He's saying Minnesota, to be fair. Minnie's taking cover. Okay. Well,
man, you're taking Minnesota to cover on the road in the Big Ten against Purdue, 12.5 points.
No, it's in Minnesota.
Oh, it's in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Aiden O'Connell was playing, if I knew that right now, I'm taking 12.5 points for sure.
All right.
But
Goes
we
up
don't
in the
know.
air. So I think I'm gonna stick with Minnesota. I have Minnesota. I'm gonna stick.
That's why that point spread's so big.
Yeah. That's it. The other ones, I don't want to give Jeff too many of my picks. Then he'll know.
So nobody knows everybody else's picks. They're all blind, right?
They're all blind until the games kick. It's fun, and then you scramble to see what everyone picked, and it's been
that's cool.
It's been pretty interesting. And then we're all again. So we're all on Saturdays. We're all in just like this. Like Mark and I are talking, but imagine like 9 of us, and we're all in there, and we're watching the games, and we're having these watch parties during football, and everyone's more than welcome. We've had a couple. Austin, the Louisville fan. He was in last night with us.
Oh,
yeah. We're getting new people coming in all the time. You're all more than welcome. I know Shoelace is in there, but he's always busy. So, you guys, please check it out. Join the Patreon. You're all more than welcome in the Discord. Please come join the chat. Come in for these watch parties because they've made the season a lot more exciting. You know, it's saving me money. Listen, you save a lot of money. Instead of going to the sports bar and spending all that money, you can hang out and talk to the knuckleheads instead and enjoy your Saturdays. So
yeah, I would have accompanied that with a banner, but apparently I got too many contributors coming into these live streams and tearing through my banners. Somebody must have deleted that thing. I got to build another Discord banner. But yeah, Tim's letting you know, please join the Discord. It's a good deal right there. Go to Patreon, search MarkRogersTV. We get you the Discord link, and then you get my picks for whatever that's worth. And but most of all, it's about their watch parties, their after show parties, and the chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna double check my card against your picks for sure. And then speaking of Austin looks like he's in the chat, wondering if you're taking calls. So,
oh yes, we're taking calls. Let me leave the link.
That was great to hear. He joined us last night right after the Pac-12 show. He came in after the Pac-12 show was over. We went into the Discord and had a chat, and there was Austin. Popped in to say hello. So,
Austin, we just dropped the link. You can join Tim and I. Jump on in here. Anybody else that wants to join?
Yeah, Jeff, come join us, Jeff. Jeff's always good company.
Tide Guy, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Here we go.
Oh, Jeffrey
on the line. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good. I haven't been on in a couple weeks, but I was gonna ask you about your opinions on the Nebraska former Nebraska defensive line coach just slamming Tom Allen like that. I mean, I understand, you might not like a guy and you think your program is better, but I mean, it's kind of like I read in an article, Indiana in the last few years, 5 years is over 500, and Nebraska is under 500 by a lot. And you're saying those comments. I just don't think that's very smart. It's going to give Indiana more motivation to win, kind of like when Scott Frost back in 2019 said, I wish we played Indiana more often instead of Ohio State, and Indiana won that year too.
Well, so before we get into that, I'm a little disappointed we didn't talk about that on our Nebraska show on Tuesday night, because we had Tim Coyle. He's from Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and
Love
we had
that
our
guy.
guy Greg. Yeah, so we had Jim Coyle on. I don't know if you got to see that, but if you didn't, you can go back and look at that. That was a great conversation with Jim. And then we got our guy Greg from Husker Online, and nobody brought it up, so I don't even know what you're talking about. So what was said?
They basically, the Nebraska defensive line coach from a long time ago was on a radio show, and he basically said that that Tom Allen was a clown, and that he's a rah-rah coach or whatever, and that he runs out of the tunnel and all that. And it's like, why are you going to say that about Tom Allen when so many coaches do that? I mean, Nick Saban does it.
Because he runs out of the tunnel?
That's what he said. I'm serious. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Tons of coaches run out of the tunnel. PJ Fleck does it. I mean, to me, the guy's just, he got fired from Nebraska anyway, so I don't know why he's defending Nebraska. So I don't.
No,
it doesn't really make sense to me.
Well, this would be a bigger story, of course, if he was currently employed by Nebraska. So you're just talking about a former employee that can shoot off his mouth. And if everybody's got a podcast now and they want to talk and create controversy and have their opinion out there. So,
I mean, it doesn't really bother me. I'm not one of those people that, take offense to everything like some people do. But I just think it's funny because it just seems like so many people are dogging out Indiana lately. And it's like, I can understand that last year, but I mean, they are 3-1. I know 2 weeks ago you said that when you were super tired and it was like 12:30, and I asked you what you thought about the Indiana Western Kentucky game, and you said they were both terrible. I mean, yeah, they are, but still, I mean, at least Indiana's not FIU and losing 73-0 to Western Kentucky. Indiana did beat them in overtime. So there are always teams that are worse than you, I guess, unless you're FIU, I guess. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, to your credit, yeah, you got a Big Ten win. You're 3-1. You got a big chance to go 4-1. This is no slam dunk on either side, so nobody's going to be surprised. They shouldn't be if Indiana comes back from Nebraska with a win.
Why is Nebraska favored anyway? I don't really like more than the home point spread of 3. I've seen the line as much as 6. I don't agree with that because they lost to Georgia Southern. So I just don't really think that they should be favored. I mean, I'm not an odds maker guy, but what do you think about that?
Well, I think that it takes Vegas a long time to change reputation and opinion. Vegas,
5 years.
No. Shouldn't. Vegas obviously believes 2 things. They believe that the Nebraska team that we saw every week that didn't win games last year but stayed close with everyone is the same Nebraska team we have this year that also built up this off-season reputation of bringing in, Hoshawn Mathis at defensive end and Trey Palmer at wide receiver and Casey Thompson at quarterback and Mark Whipple at offensive coordinator, and that they would be new and improved and all this. So Nebraska's got some clout with odds makers in Vegas. They do. They're 0-4 against the spread this year, so that confirms what you're saying right there.
Well, my thing is with, like you're talking about with teams with the preconceived notions, I understand, but Nebraska's not good anymore. And they haven't been good in a long time.
Yeah, they're not Florida going to the SEC championship game 2 years ago and then being not so good the next year. Yeah,
Nebraska's terrible, and
for a long time.
Like my dad has a hard time sometimes because I love my dad watching football, but he has the the aura of these old teams. I'm like, Dad, these teams aren't the same anymore. I mean, you can't definitively talk about Nebraska in the same space anymore that you used to. You just can't do that. I mean, I watch Indiana basketball a lot, which is the only reason why I watch the football team, because that's what got me into it many years ago, because Indiana basketball used to be good, and their fans are sometimes delusional too. And I'm coming from a place of supporting the team, but it's like you talk about your program like you're still Bob Knight. You're not Bob Knight anymore. You're not Tom Osborne anymore.
Sure.
You just, I don't understand why people just can't figure out. Every year, I've been watching football. I'm 18 years old, and I've been watching football since 2000 and probably 10. I remember the Cam Newton and with my dad loving Alabama and all that stuff, and then being mad at the kick six and all that. So that's like my earliest memories.
Yeah.
And Nebraska's never been good. I've never seen them any good. To me, there comes a point where you got to eventually just tell yourself that a program is not good anymore and just accept the fact until proven otherwise and they start winning again.
Well, yeah, Jeff, you're absolutely right. So there's a difference between us having an off-season conversation like we will a zillion times, and we'll talk about all-time rankings and where should they be ranked, and we can talk about games in the 1920s and how much they mean today, and that's a different conversation. But if we're talking about football, we're trying to predict who's going to win games and evaluate these teams in 2022. That's completely discarded. Means nothing. Nebraska having a brand means zero. Nebraska right now is, what's Nebraska? Are they as good as Cal? Are they as good as, their Virginia Tech? They've got a brand. They've had a winning tradition. It's nothing close to Nebraska, but Frank Beamer third. Well, they're not that Virginia Tech. They're no good. There's all sorts of teams with brand names that are no good. Florida State, up until this year, now they're starting to disprove that, but for the last 4 years, Florida State, they're no good. Wake Forest is better than Florida, and I'm talking again pre-22. Wake Forest is better than Florida State.
The other thing I have a problem with too is because a lot of, I have a lot of family members that watch football and a lot, that watch other sports, and that's not important. But the ones that watch football, I'm not talking down on anybody because, again, as I said before, I'm 18 years old and I don't you guys know tons more than me, but I have tons of people that I know that know absolutely nothing about football. Because they watch games and again, it's the brand and all that. But it's like you can't tell me that some of these programs are any good anymore, and they're not. And it's like I did, and a lot of people will tell me why that coach get fired. He was going 7-5. Like that's the big point that it all comes around to. It's just people not knowing what they're talking about. But again, when you have a team like Gus Malzahn, I think Gus Malzahn at Auburn, it was one of the better coaches at the time in the SEC. And a lot of Auburn fans didn't like him because he wasn't winning enough for the talent that they had. And that's why with Nebraska, like you said, O'Shawn Mathis, you bring in that dude, that defensive lineman from Alabama. You brought in Casey Thompson. You got all these players. Nebraska, with the team that they had, if Nick Saban was coaching Nebraska with that team, with this team they have this year, more than likely they're probably going to go 8-4 like he did at Michigan State, because the talent's similar to what he had at Michigan State back in the day. And people are like, why does Scott Frost get fired? It's like because of that. Gus Malzahn got fired because his record was really good, but it wasn't good enough for what the talent is on the team. And that's why Brian Harsin's basically dead on arrival, because he's doing even worse. And I know they've had a lot of transfers, but still, Auburn's talent is 3 times better than Indiana, and Indiana could end up having a better record than Auburn at the end of the season. So that's why coaches get fired. It's not about the fact that, this guy is a good coach, he's put in a bad situation, or this guy, he should have stayed I get sick of the argument too, where people say, a coach should stay at his old school. Like Scott Frost, everybody's like, he should stay at UCF. You don't know what he's going to do when he got at Nebraska. You thought it'd be a slam dunk. Josh Heupel was at UCF, and he actually did way worse than Scott Frost. And looking at him out at Tennessee, you don't know until you're there. You just have no idea. and so many of these programs just don't know what you're going to get. It's just, to me, it's just all jumbled and everything with any argument. That's why arguments and opinions exist in the first place, because no one's really right or wrong. But again, if you have top 10 talent and you're going 7-5, that's why a coach gets fired. You can't excuse. That's why Dan Mullen's on ESPN right now. It just, you can go on and on with all these examples. Clay Helton at USC.
Hey, Jeffrey, stop. I don't want to hear that.
I know, you love USC. Now you got Lincoln Riley. You got Lincoln Riley now. Everything's good. You beat Oregon State.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
You beat Oregon State, man. It's going to be good. You're going to make the playoff there. It's just, I don't know. It's just, that's why I love college football, because it's one of those things where you could talk about whatever you want, and really there's no right or wrong answer, and everybody's opinions are valid to an extent, even if they don't really make any sense, because they do have a little bit of validity to them. Kind of like I was seeing in the chat, it's like that one guy that they used to call, and I remember too, way back when I first watched, but he used to talk about games in the 1980s and say that they still matter today. It's like they don't, but you can make that argument if you want to. No one's going to completely say you're a fool. If you talk about politics or you're talking about any other thing, people are going to be at each other's throats. But unless you're Alabama fans, there was 2 fans that shot each other after they lost A&M last year. But again, outside of crazy Alabama fans killing each other in Birmingham, most of the time you can have as many civil arguments as you want about anything, and you should be fine.
I'm going to agree with Joey Foster that you made a great call. I love everything you've said, Jeffrey, but I'm going to cut out about 3 sentences there that you just finished up here about 30 seconds ago and tell you that not everybody's opinion is valid. They have the right to have the opinion. Absolutely. They have the God-given and hopefully protected in this country right to have an opinion, but there are a lot of idiotic opinions that are not valid out there, and I hear them every day.
Oh, I know. I was just talking about with just sports, that you can say that everybody's opinion is valid. You don't have to think that they're all valid, but you can at least make the argument for it. Whereas literally any other topic, there's just it's ugly. I mean, I think even cooking's worse than sports, to be honest, because,
Cooking.
If the food's bad, no, I mean, you're going to be going off. It's like, I mean, like the French fry debate you guys were having, like, that was so funny with the Wendy's and the Five Guys and the McDonald's. It's like, you like McDonald's fries. I'm like, man, those are the worst. But that's your opinion, but it could get ugly. Sports is like, it's all good. But, Tim's like, oh, you just talking about me with USC. It's like, it's just a joke. We're good. But cooking, food, anything, it just could get ugly fast. I mean, all I know is I've had so many arguments with my family and my friends about tons of stuff, and sports is the only one that, to me, almost anything you can just laugh about. Like what Troy Aikman said about Indiana, like that defensive line coach from Nebraska about Indiana. It's like some people taking offense, like, who cares? It's kind of funny. You can just use it as motivation. I mean, to me, that's the only reason why I root for Indiana sports anyway, because to me, most people think that they're a joke. And I'm just like, yeah, they are a joke. The basketball team used to be good. They suck now. The football team's never been good. They don't invest in it. But, hey, I mean, again, fuel to the fire. It's good. To me, it's just a joke. I love it. And that's why I like sports a lot, because it's just fun to banter about it.
Absolutely. Good stuff there. But you hit on a good point that a lot of people get confused about. What are we talking about? Are we talking about 2022? Are we talking about all time? Are we talking about brand? Are we talking about, what are we talking about here? Anytime somebody brings me an argument about who's relevant, who's not, what's this, I try to pin them down on what is the framework of our debate here? What are we talking about? I just want to have a clear shot, then I can take it from there. But because there's a lot of crossing of lines when it comes to these debates about where are we? Are we in the here and now? Are we talking historically? Where are we?
I remember that one argument you were having with this one guy. You might not even remember because you talked to so many people, but I watched your show probably once or twice a week. But it was this argument you were having with a guy like a year ago. And this dude was talking about how the NFL stadiums are fine games to play college football games. And I'm like you, I prefer the campus games because that's what the campus games are for. You have the crowd. It's all basically 80-90% one team. Like that Florida State LSU game, it was in New Orleans, but the Florida State fans traveled, and it was like 50-50. Because it was one of the first videos I ever made on my channel. I said mistakenly that, it's in New Orleans, so it's going to be a pro LSU crowd, and I got burned for it. I'm like, I didn't mean to say that. I forgot it was a neutral game. And it's like, I like the campus game, but the point I was making about what that guy was saying to you, he wasn't even like listening to you talk about why the campus games are better. I listened to that whole like 30-minute argument you were talking to that guy with the whole time, and it was just like, man, does he not get it? The tradition. It's like playing Oklahoma at Nebraska is so much better in Nebraska at Oklahoma or any game like that than Florida, Georgia, or Oklahoma, Texas. Even though I think they're cool to be 50-50, I just still think the campus games are better than the neutral sites. I
remember that conversation, I was pointing out that Alabama hadn't traveled anywhere in 11 years.
Until Texas.
And I was making the point that, I don't have an issue with us playing a few games at NFL stadiums on neutral sites every year, but I don't want to see Alabama every year playing in Houston and Atlanta, and that's their only non-conference game that matters and never going anywhere. And us thinking after 10 or 11 years, man, Alabama should go to Columbus, or they should go to Ann Arbor, or they should go to the Coliseum, or they should go somewhere and play somebody on campus, not hide in some NFL stadium every year. Do it once in a while. Let's see, some other teams cycle through these NFL stadiums. It's okay. I don't mind the NFL stadiums being used the first couple of weeks of the season for a couple games, but I don't want to see a team like Alabama did for the last 11 years. Now they finally showed up in Texas for the first time since 2011, played on campus somewhere, but for 11 years, they're going to Houston or Atlanta to play a non-conference game.
Yeah, that's what's funny about that commercial. You got the Heisman commercials or whatever with Nissan. It's like Bryce Young, he's got a road trip that Baker Mayfield's got to take him to, and he's at Texas. And it's like, yeah, again, the first one in forever. And like you said, 11 years. The other thing I think is hilarious too off that is that, you have all these FCS teams, and so many people don't understand that there are different level FCS programs. And why is it that you have like Alabama or Georgia playing the Citadel and Mercer and stuff like that, but then you get Indiana? Idaho usually sucks, but Idaho is better this year because, Washington State's improved and Indiana's better, and Idaho almost beat both of them. But then you get like Arizona and North Dakota State. Arizona, like one of the worst FBS programs, and then they play in North Dakota State. Why is North Dakota State not playing an SEC school? Like, I still don't understand that. You think they would want to make it more competitive because you want those guaranteed wins. You want Indiana to make a bowl game. So giving them and I know the schedules are picked way in advance, but giving them Western Kentucky, giving them Cincinnati is kind of crazy because it's making it harder for them to get there. Whereas in the non-conference, you get like Alabama, besides the Texas game, every other game that they play in the non-conference is garbage. You would think that they would, and I'm not saying anything bad about those programs. I'm just saying for Alabama, those games are garbage. Why not let Alabama play those tougher teams in the FCS in the lower group of 5 and have the Indianas and Arizonas play the easier ones so they all get guaranteed wins, basically, unless you're just so bad you lose.
John makes a comment about the neutral site games paying more money and helping recruiting and all that other business, and it's difficult to turn down. I don't have an issue with us playing an opening weekend. There's a game in Atlanta. There's a game in Orlando. There's a game in New Orleans. There's a game wherever. That's not my point. That's Alabama 11 consecutive years playing nothing but those games. That's my issue.
Mm.
That's my issue. And I think a round of college football playoff games on campus will be phenomenal, and I hope that that's part of the plan. I believe it is. I'm forgetting the 12-team playoff format and if they even went there in regards to where these first-round games are going to be played, but I want them on campus.
Yeah, the college football playoff expansion to me is like, March Madness is cool because basketball is upsets more often anyway. And when you have like football, Alabama at number 1 is not going to lose to, the number 12 team very often. I just don't think, a lot of people think that the 12-team playoff is going to make it more competitive. It might, it will make more teams want to know the opt-outs won't happen. More teams want to be there. I get it. And more teams can make it. But to me, that you lose the luster of it. Like when you make the 4-team playoff, it's like the coolest thing. If you make the 12-team playoff, it's not as special. And how often is Alabama going to lose to the 12 team? How often is Georgia going to lose to the 12 team? The only way that's going to balance it out is if NIL can make USC, Miami, some of these other programs able to compete with Alabama and Georgia, I guess, in my opinion.
So my thought is that we should not be looking at a playoff to try to correct college football. The playoff should be devised in such a way that makes it fair for the various conferences to compete and for their champions to be in the playoff. I hear that argument all the time, and I get your argument, Jeffrey, that because of what we've seen over the last several years, we don't seem to have enough competitive teams to fill up a 12-team playoff. But that shouldn't be the responsibility of the playoff to say, well, we're going to fit a playoff into our current status of college football, which only, like, if we continue on this path this season, we don't even have a 4th team that appears to be worthy to play with the other 3. So let's say that's the case. Does that mean we only have a 3-team playoff this year? Well, no. So I don't think it's the obligation of playoff or the system or what is a quality system to try to fit into the current state of college football. Allow the system to be built, which is a good system, I think. I don't want the 12 teams because I don't like buys, and I don't think they're fair, and I've outlined that a zillion times. If anybody wants to hear that, I'll explain that some other time. So clearly, I am not in favor of buys. They don't work in college football. They're not fair. They can't be fairly determined like they can in the NFL. So either 8 or 16. And then I think it's up for the teams and the conferences to raise their game to the level of the Ohio States and the Clemsons and whomever else to get there. But I get your point. If we have a 12-team playoff during the last 6 or 7 years, we're going to have some playoff. So I have some blowouts, and we probably will going forward. But I don't think that that's a reason to not have a good system.
Do you think that NIL is going to quote unquote level the playing field on that or not?
Okay.
It's kind of hard to tell.
What I basically think is more than likely the same schools that in the previous model had the resources to build huge, amazing facilities, to hire a zillion people to put on staff and have recruiting budgets that are insane to fly wherever they need to fly. Those are the same schools that have the money with the boosters and the collectives to build the largest NIL collectives to attract the players. But there's going to be some outliers. There's going to be some schools that in the new world of NIL aren't as well equipped as they were previously. And then there's going to be some schools that are going to take advantage and elevate themselves. But generally, the same schools that were able to pump all that money into their football program before are going to be the same schools that are going to be able to utilize all that to pump into NIL.
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about the playoff, I agree. I mean, I know the playoff is done because of money. I mean, unfortunately, as great as college athletics are, especially in the last 10 years or so, money has just dominated every decision, which blows to an extent because, again, you want the tradition. Kind of like there's talking about how West Virginia, Virginia Tech is not going to play each other again in a long time. And it's like they both used to play each other, West Virginia, Pitt, and all that stuff. The tradition's like shot, especially like Oklahoma, Nebraska as well. But that's not the point. I know money is driving the decision to go to 12, and I know that part of it's optics because, again, with all the opt-outs and the bowls, it's making the bowl games terrible because, like you said, I remember you said as well, and I agree that the Tennessee-Purdue game was the best bowl game of the season last year, and that wasn't even on New Year's or a top-tier bowl game. It was a decent bowl. And top-tier bowl games that I used to watch as a young child are terrible now because you have all these opt-outs and you're not – I mean, you get to see, like, the future players, but you're not getting to see, like, Kenny Pickett opting out and Kenneth Walker opting out, and Pitt, Michigan State really ruined that game. And they're having to put like players on the graphics that you don't even know from the teams. It's like, okay, you wanted to see Kenny Pickett and Kenneth Walker play, and then everybody's making fun of Matt Corral. Oh, he got hurt. That's why you don't play in the bowl game. And again, which is just garbage. And I understand that that's why they're doing the playoff money and that. I get it. But the problem with it is that in college basketball, I watch a lot of college basketball too, and I know this is a football channel, but again, college basketball, the competition's better because even if you have tons of 5-star talent on your team, there's a good chance you're going to have a game where you just play horrible and the ball doesn't go in the basket. When you're playing football, most of it's athleticism. I mean, you see Indiana's offensive lineman line up against Ohio State's defensive lineman, and the game's already over. You're not winning. It doesn't matter that Indiana's got a good wide receiver or a good defensive line. It doesn't matter because it's already over. The game's over at that point. And again, like you said, this year there are only 3 elite teams. When you watch college basketball, you can say, hey, there's probably 15 to 20 good 2 elite teams. And there's probably 5 that are better than the rest. But at the end of the day, when you're playing the national championship game, besides last year when you had, well, actually Carolina wasn't a 1 seed, but most time it's not the 1 seed. When you're playing in a football, it's usually 2 to 3, maybe 4 elite teams, and the other ones are off a cliff. And you saw that last year, Cincinnati, everybody hyped up Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, I watched them play. They were good. But I knew that Cincinnati, if they won out, had no chance, whoever they played against, because they barely beat Indiana. Even though Indiana didn't have as many injuries at that point, and McFadden got knocked out of the game unfairly, and they probably would have beat Cincinnati, just to be honest. But Cincinnati had no chance, and they really didn't belong to be there. And people will be like, well, hey, they were undefeated. But if you put Oklahoma State or Baylor or any of the other teams that were right there at that number 4 spot, that game's a blowout. And the only game I was really interested to see was Michigan, Georgia, and that game was a blowout. And I know that not all of them are going to be blowouts, but you hype up the playoff from the beginning of the season. This is what I don't like about the playoff because, again, I watched football for a long time, you guys longer, and used to be in the olden days, as you can call it, basically 5 years ago or the olden days now, you had the championship game, all the bowls, and everybody was like, hey, I can't wait for New Year's again. Now it's like it's all about the playoffs, all about that trophy. And it's like it doesn't matter. You see the playoff ads in September, it's like it don't matter right now. It is 4 or 5 months away. Who cares? I don't care about it. I care about Washington, UCLA tomorrow. I care about the BYU game going on right now. I don't give one flying hoot about the playoff. I don't care about it. It's like I was laughing. I watched it last night when you guys had the playoff graphic on the show, and I was like, hey, that's funny. And then some people were laughing about it in the chat. It's like you can talk about it and joke about it, and I'm cool with it. I like looking ahead, but it's not the focal point. The focal point of a true football fan is the next game on your schedule. It is not about the playoff, and that's the problem with current advertising and current people's mindsets on everything is that, oh, the playoff is all about the playoff. Yeah, it's not all about the playoffs like in the NFL. This is about week 5 in college football. It is not all about the playoff, and they hype it up way too much for games that get millions of views that kind of suck because they're not even close most of the time.
Good stuff.
Jeffrey, I can listen to you for hours, dude.
Yeah, wind him up. Let him go.
Hey, so I dropped that link. I'm gonna drop it one more time, you guys. We gotta get Jeffrey some subs. I know TF said that Traveling Fool said he subbed him up. I'm gonna put it okay, Mark. Put one more time in the chat. You guys,
absolutely.
If you're not listening to this dude, I don't know what you're saying. He does. It's so precocious for a kid his age. Sorry to put you down. To me, everyone is not an old man like me as a kid. Sorry there, Jeffrey. I know you're 18 now. A young man like Jeffrey to know and talk about football. I'm sure you've had a lot of conversations with your dad. I can tell because you also have a lot of that wisdom of what happened before you were around. So yeah, you guys got to check it out. And I'm really shocked, Jeffrey, that a kid from North Carolina who lives in Indiana loves basketball. I never would have thought that could happen.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
How did that happen?
The only reason is because, like I said, everybody just dogs them out to death. I mean, my dad is so awesome, man, that he picks the 2 favorite teams in the world. I'm not in the world, but in basketball, it's Kentucky. Kentucky basketball. Look at all those players they got going pro. And in football, well, my great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, they were Alabama fans, and on my mom's side, they were Arkansas fans, so I had to pick Alabama. Yeah, right. You picked Alabama because they were better than Arkansas. Even then, but Bear Bryant, he watched the Liberty Bowl game, the last game in Memphis, because that's his hometown. It's like, yeah, okay. I get it. We know you like the best team. You like the team that's going to win. I mean, it's like Alabama's favored by 17 against Arkansas. Do you think they're going to cover the spread? Yeah, who knows? You said that they were going to beat Texas by 30. They won by 1. I have no idea. It depends how they play. It's like with Indiana, it's like, to me, the enjoyment of watching Indiana is, again, when they get that elusive win, because they never win. It's like Tom Allen, who the Nebraska defensive line coach made fun of. He's jumping up and down. He's like tackling his players. Devon Monster Matthews, he's knocking him on the ground. He chips his tooth and he don't care. He's like, we beat Michigan for the first time in 20, 30 years. It's awesome. And then you got Alabama. We lost A&M. Let's shoot each other because they lost. It's like, come on, man. I mean, you lost one game in over a year. It's like, dude, you're good. You're still going to make the playoff. To me, I just think it's funny. That's why I like watching teams that lose a lot more, because when they do win, their excitement makes it all the worthwhile of watching the game in the first place. Alabama fans they expect to win every single game.
That's I love hearing from other fan bases on here. I love it. I love when you come on here because it's Indiana. Other people, we got some Wake Forest fans. I just love hearing from the outskirts of college football. It's great.
And keep in mind that, I mean, I've watched basically every single Alabama game since I was, born, basically, when I'm in my little cradle and I'm watching watching Alabama. And it's like, I still like them because, again, I mean, you gotta have some enjoyment knowing that a team's going to win every week and say, hey, Alabama won again. Yeah, it's like, but again, I also have that other side, and that's why I come on and talk about Indiana. Because, again, like you said, I remember the first time I ever called in when you had your phone line that went dead. And I was like, yeah, I mean, somebody's got to talk about Indiana. Because it's like, I'm listening on here. I'm like, USC. And, again, no offense, I love USC. USC's awesome. It's like USC, Ohio State, Alabama, Nebraska stinks. Stop talking about it. And you go all these teams, and it's like Indiana. I'm like, there's no Indiana person on here. And I'm like, phone line. I'll just call in on the phone line. I'm like, hey. And then I was just like, it worked. I mean, I didn't just to show you how I don't know nothing about technology. Just to be completely honest with you, I'm just spilling my guts on it. Everybody's probably laughing. I accidentally left some of my stuffed animals. I got stuffed animals. I'm whatever. But they're back here. Forgot to put them up. But the point is that I don't know nothing about technology, and I forgot to put the 1 in front of the daggum thing. I never call people hardly ever because most of the time they call, I guess, me, and I guess I see why, because I guess they want to hear what I got to say. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I'm interesting. But, again, I called in, and, again, I wanted to talk about Indiana because no one did it. Because if people did, I probably wouldn't even call it in the first place. But I was like, no one did it, so I did it. And I'm glad I did that first time because when you moved to StreamYard, I had to get an email address to do it, and that's when I started the YouTube channel or whatever. But, about a month ago or so. But, I mean, you guys are awesome. I mean, I love listening to you guys talk. And I mean, I'm very thankful that you guys think I do a great job. I don't. I just think I ramble a lot. But I mean, I try basically when I'm doing my videos, it's funny because I'm like looking down and I have all this stuff written down. It takes you like 25, 30 minutes to write down all the stats and stuff because I try to do it because it's hard to remember it all, because if not, I'm just going to ramble like this and no one's going to want to hear me do that.
It's only rambling. Jeffrey, it's only rambling if you're not saying things that are interesting. And I find it amazing that you have to write things down because the memory you've got, I would love to have that memory again. You just rattled off about maybe 20 minutes of facts that maybe most of the people, including myself here, this chat could not do. So don't question that. I'm going to throw your name in the chat again because, again, I want to get those subs up for you because I think you deserve them. And, man, I can't wait for your next video.
Thank you so much. And everybody subscribe to the Voice of College Football. I am. And it don't matter if Mark Rogers has people on or if it's him or not. It's fantastic content. I love the top 25 that actually makes sense, by the way. I mean, I have like a video where I do like the top 25 or whatever. And I kind of like put a little spin on it where it's like, I think when a team loses, they shouldn't drop as far if it was close or they win. But yours is the definitive one, and no poll is perfect, and they're all flawed. But I like yours the best because, again, Indiana was ranked 15. It was short-lived. but they were 15th for brief. And it was
And
like,
Jeffrey's
okay,
gonna kill me. Jeffrey's gonna kill me, Mark, but he let it slip. He said that you are his hero. He's been watching you for a long time, and again, it shows you're like a little. Can I call you Little Rogers from now on? Oh no,
You have more energy than I do.
little voice of college football, voice of college junior. I don't know what I'm gonna call you, but you're on the right path, man.
Hey,
No,
Jeffrey,
thank
from the first time you called, it's always been a great call. Every time you've called up, people are enjoying it in the chat. And again, Tim has dropped the link a number of times. Everybody get on over, check out Jeffrey's channel. I will. And Jeffrey, great stuff. Continue to call. We appreciate you being here. It's awesome. We've got a couple other callers lined up we'd like to get to, but really good stuff from you. And sometime we'll have to have you call in, and we will discuss the playoff. I know you want to keep it at 4, and I'm going to swing you to my side.
I don't have a problem with 12. I just know why they're doing it, and it's going to be futile because, unfortunately, again, most of the games, until proven otherwise, hopefully they'll be more competitive. They're going to be blowouts. But yeah, I can't wait for that. Again, thank you guys so much, and I'll definitely call back in really, really soon. Probably on Saturday night if I can do it before church. Like going to bed early enough for church.
We're going to be back on here tomorrow night. We want to lead everybody into UCLA and Washington. That's going to be a good one, I think, at 10:30 Eastern. So we're going to jump on here at 8 o'clock and beyond from 8 to 10:30. So, all right, Jeffrey. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
All
right. Very cool. We had Austin here. We're going to get him on right now. And we also had Tide Guy who keeps dropping off. So I don't know if he's having issues, but we got Austin here. Austin, what's going on? Austin, can you hear us?
What's happening, Mark? Yes. I gotta say, I was talking to Tim, Tony, and Chris the other night in Discord. I have to say it's the best $5 I've ever spent, Mark. You've done a really good job over there. I'm enjoying.
These guys have done an amazing job. I just set it up and let them fly with it. But yeah, I appreciate that. And I just I gotta credit Tim. Oh man, I'm going to leave people out. Exploring with Ben, Jordan, and Eric, and oh my goodness, because the deal is you kind of take a risk with that because, if you start a chat room and there's like 2 people, what are they going to do? Talk to each other? And so you got to get it to a certain point where you start getting some momentum and people are talking because, hey, if you're an Ohio State fan and there's only like 2 other people in there and they're Oklahoma and Oregon fans and you really don't want to talk about that, then you're kind of stuck. So a lot of people took a little step of faith to say, you know what, we're going to jump in there, get it going. And that's what's happened to it. So we want to keep it going. And we appreciate you being there as well.
Yeah. I come to talk to you, Mark and Tim, about the the Michigan and Iowa game this coming weekend. What's your feel on that? Because I know Iowa's had a reputation of kind of shocking Michigan. You think it could happen again?
Yes, I do believe it could happen again. That doesn't mean I'm going to predict it, but you're right. It's a 5-1 split at Iowa City since 2005. So we've seen this before. Actually, Iowa has defeated 4 of the last 5 top 5 teams that have visited Iowa City. And the only time they lost was on the last play of the game to Penn State. So they do this on a routine basis. And I get the easy analysis is, and it makes total sense, that Iowa's got a great defense. Michigan has maybe as good a defense or close to it, but Michigan's got a much better offense. So there's a reason they're an 11-point favorite. It makes total sense. But we've seen about 4 to 5 games every week as double-digit favorites fall almost every week this season. So I think Iowa's got a real shot in this game. They got to play their game. They've got a narrow path, but they've done it before.
Iowa's going to have to get some like they've been doing. Get some defensive points in this one, or something in special teams, because let's face it, it's not going to happen on offense, you know? So if they can get a couple breaks, and then a defense like that's going to keep you in games, right? So if you have that's what they have going for them. They're at home, great home field advantage. if they can, with a defense like that, the defense will keep them in the game. If they can get a couple breaks, maybe some defensive points, it could get interesting, I think.
But maybe a better than expected offensive game, like a reasonable offensive game, like 2 touchdowns out of the offense, or a touchdown and a field goal, get 10 points. And then, maybe they win this thing 19-17, something like that.
Mm.
Well, the thing that I see that can happen in this game is, like you said, if Iowa's defense can make enough plays and make Michigan feel the pressure and make those bad decisions, they very much have a shot to win this game, like you both stated. It's just curious to me, like how Michigan underestimates their opponents sometimes, because Iowa's not the first team that they've had this happen to them, because Penn State's done it to Michigan too before when they've been unranked. Correct or no?
I'm not really finding those games in my memory. Basically, the Michigan-Penn State series under James Franklin has basically been Michigan wins at home, Penn State wins at home. I think that's only not happened once. And usually when Penn State's better, they win, and when Michigan's better, they win.
And another thing, Mark, is the Alabama-Arkansas game.
Yep.
How big a game is this for Arkansas coming off that loss to Texas A&M? Like, how much importance is this going to be to Arkansas, in your opinion?
Well, I got to ask you a question first before I answer that. What are Arkansas's expectations? If their expectations are to win the SEC West and go to the championship game, then it's enormous. It's huge. They have to win it. But if Arkansas, if you're looking at them going 8-4 again, then it's not that big, because this would be the obvious loss on their schedule. They've already lost 1. This would be the second. They can lose 2 more, still go 8-4, and be what most of us think Arkansas is.
Yeah, I think Arkansas, their goal should be to win the SEC championship. So, this game would probably mean a whole lot to them.
Win this game. There's no getting around. The season's over if they lose this game. They cannot win the SEC if they lose this game. But I don't personally think that's within Arkansas's sights this year. I think they're a really good team, strong program. They're getting better. They had a nice 9-4 season last year. I think they're pretty similar to what they were last year, and they most likely lose this game and they finish 8-4, maybe go 9-3, but the schedule's pretty rough, and that's who they are right now.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Tim?
Well, Mark said I'm deferring on that one. Sorry, I've been watching the chat. Yeah, I just don't think Arkansas has the team to win, to be in a position to win the SEC. They just don't have it. It's a 2-team race to me. I'm not buying all the hype until someone shows me otherwise. It's a 2-team race.
Yeah. Who's that third team? Yeah, it's almost like the national race right now. We're looking for a 4th team. In the SEC, we're looking for a 3rd team. And the only teams that have shown anything that could possibly, and I still don't think they've got it, maybe Kentucky, maybe Tennessee, maybe Ole Miss, but probably not anyone.
Yeah, those are the 3 teams that have been thrown in the hat a lot. But they all have their deficiencies somewhere in their offense or defense compared to the other 2.
All right, Austin, you got anything else for us?
No, I just want to appreciate you for your time, Mark. God bless, and thank you.
Austin, we appreciate you being here, man.
Nice. Glad you joined, Austin. Join us tomorrow night. We'll be on late.
Before we bring in Tide Guy, and we may bring in, we'll just bring in Tide Guy and Joey at the same time. We'll acknowledge this super chat here. So this is phenomenal. We got Christopher Morgan says, we appreciate the contribution there. So we'll have next time Jeffrey's on, I'll say, Jeffrey, give me your Venmo, your PayPal, your Cash App, and we'll make sure that that Jeffrey gets paid for his appearance tonight. He will be the first Well, I shouldn't say that. I certainly pay a lot of contributors on here, but a on-the-spot payment, that's phenomenal. Good stuff right there. Christopher, thank you for that.
Get over to, I dropped the link. Get over there and definitely give him a sub. I bet you'd appreciate that a lot as well.
Absolutely. So let's talk to Tide Guy and Joey. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. How are you guys?
I'm doing great, man.
I'm good. Don't want to take any time away from either one of you. I'm guessing you've got completely different topics. So Tide Guy, since you were first in line, let's start with you. What do you got for us?
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the playoffs going to expand to 12 teams.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of that.
Okay.
I think we ought to go to 16 teams. And the reason I think is you give the top 4 conference champions a bye. That is a big advantage. Not only do they get to sit home and scout the teams they're going to play, they don't have to worry about any injuries. They don't have to worry about one of their players making a stupid targeting call in the second half and losing him, for the first half of the next game. And I think where the biggest problem is going to come down to, that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, is what happens if you have, let's say, Miami and Baylor. They're fighting it out between the 4th and 5th conference champion, okay? And let's say they're only 8th or 9th in the rankings. So you could have the 4th conference champion get a bye and not have to play, and the 5th conference champion have to go on the road to, let's say, Ann Arbor, Columbus, Wisconsin. Let's say they make it in there in November in the snow. So think of the big advantage it is. You snuck in at 4th place, so you get a bye. And unfortunately, the person who's in the 5th conference champion might have to go on the road in the first round.
So Tide Guy, if you heard any of my videos or any of the live stream debates we've had on the playoff and mine knocks against this 12-team playoff?
Yeah, I have. And I know you're
Yeah, I pretty much line up like your first 3 or 4 bullet points are exactly what I've stated a million times, that I've got an issue with the 12-team playoff. Exactly.
But I think that 4th and 5th place championship, that is a big one, because like I said,
absolutely,
one team gets a bye and the other team might have to go on the road. And if you're like a Miami or a Baylor, do you want to go to Ann Arbor in December and play in the snow?
All the power that currently rests with the College Football Playoff Committee in just deciding which 4 teams make it. So that's what their real power stranglehold is right now. It's just simply that they get to select all 4 teams. It kind of shifts to any one of us could select, like if next season we went to a 12-team playoff, the 4 of us could select the 12, and we might be off by 1, maybe 2, but generally it's going to be pretty easy to select 12 and not have too much of it. You're going to have some outliers, but you're going to get the top 8, 9, 10, 11 teams in the country in the playoff, regardless of who's choosing. They would have to be a complete moron not to see it. The real power is going to shift from selecting the 4 to making the differentiation between who's the 4th best champion and who's the 5th best champion, because they got to play on the road and they got to play a first round game.
Exactly. And I think that's too much power for a committee.
I do too.
I mean, the one nice, the BCS, and I'm not saying the BCS got it right all the time, but at least the human element was not as strong as a committee, and the bias is not there.
Well, you guys, hold on, Jeff, really quick.
Do you think really do this?
Jeff, do you think that the 4-team playoff is tipping the hand of what they think that college football is going to? Because, I mean, are there still going to be 5 power? Is there going to be a power 5 anymore? I think at some point this seems to consolidate to a minimum of only having 4. And then you have the other conferences, and then you have the at-larges are doing all that. So that's where you get there. That's where you get this idea that there's everyone, they get a bye, is because they're probably saying these 4 teams, because this is a money grab. I mean, I still haven't heard one person besides money tell me why we need more than 8. I think 8's good and we needed the 8 because we had the Power 5 with 4 spots. That the math didn't work. But now that we're moving closer and closer to the 4, I think we could have stayed at 4 and it would have worked. But since now the genie's out of the bottle and all this money, they're looking at these, all this money on the table, they're never going to keep it at 4. So again, I think that the idea is going to be there's going to be like 4 power conferences, and then everyone else, you're lucky to even be in it. So if you're crapping about a bye, you shouldn't even be in the playoffs. Win some games and then play yourself into the playoffs. Like the bubble teams. I don't know, like the first 4. That's what I think that's going to be.
I just think that the
Tim,
playoffs
is if
need
you
to
listen-
expand sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm for
But,
the playoff expansion, but the problem is, Tim, is if the Big Ten does what the commissioner says, the Big Ten wants to go to a 24-team conference now. I mean, he started out at 20, and today it come out he wants 24 teams. He wants 4 pods of 6. You play your 5 regular, and then 6 rotate. You play everybody every 3 years. If the Big
That was a
Ten
statement.
goes to
That was a statement from
24,
his office, Jeff.
then the SEC. I can after this. I can send you the article. Yeah, I mean it was.
Is it
was
sources?
reported
I'm saying, Jeff. What I'm saying is it sources say, or did he come out and say that? There's a big difference. We've been hearing a lot about expansion from a lot of sources.
No, I'll send you the article. It was a prominent article. I mean, it was from a reputable source, so it was from somebody that I would agree with after what Warren said about the 20 team. But if we do go to a 24 team Big Ten, the SEC follows suit. The SEC is not going to play second fiddle to the Big Ten.
I would think that if Kevin Warren came out and said,
and then you
we're
run into
shooting
the
for
problem
24
if the
teams,
Big
that it
Ten
would be
has
all over the
24 and
place.
the
I can't
SEC
find
has
it anywhere.
24.
But Jeff, it gets back to the point is sadly enough, this is really all about money.
Okay.
And where is the Big Ten going to add? Where are they going to add? Where are these 8 teams going to come from that are going to all bring equal revenue to the existing schools?
Well, they're probably going to go for some big dogs. This is going to be like Miami, Florida State, Clemson, Stanford, Cal, Oregon, Washington, some kind of, maybe 4 from the East, 4 from the West.
From what we're hearing,
and they're still shooting for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Well, someone's going to end up with Notre Dame. That's going to happen. But
here's where you're going to get the money, Tim. Here's where the money's going to come from. And this is what the SEC and the Big Ten want. If you got a 12-team playoff and the Big Ten goes to 24 and the SEC goes to 24, that's going to kill 2 conferences. So now at the most, you're going to have 4 at-larges get in. So that means more Big Ten teams and more SEC teams make the playoffs. The more teams in the playoffs, the more money the Big Ten and the SEC will make.
Yeah, college football is becoming the NFL. There we go. AFC, NFC, here we come.
Well, you bring up a good point right there about the money distribution. That would be interesting to know what the money distribution is. Is the money distribution going to be, let's say, well, for argument's sake, we stay with 5 conferences, nothing changes. That regardless of how many teams the Pac-12 gets in, they get a 1/5 of the split, or maybe the Power 5 gets 80% of the money and the Group of 5 gets 20% and they split it evenly? Or does it become this particular year, the SEC got 4 of the 12 in, so they get a 1/3, and the Big Ten got 3 of the 12, so they get 25%, and it's split. Then that's going to be controversial in regards to the committee making selections that directly affect dollars going to these conferences.
So it looks like Ohio State, USC said expansion is done for now. Hi, guy.
Yeah.
And they would probably know.
And then what happens, Mark, if they say, okay, let's say it's $1 billion. The playoffs, though, make $1 billion, okay? So if there's $1 billion on the table and 12 teams make it, what if they make it, the 12 teams, those conferences get X amount of dollars? And then every time your conference wins, Big Ten want to shoot for, that way they can get even a bigger piece of the pie, because they're going to say that our team's in the national championship every year. we need more money than an ACC team or a Pac-12 team who hasn't, won a playoff game in a year or two. You see what I'm saying?
No, I guess I missed that. Repeat, throw that at me one more time.
Okay, say there's $1 billion and you got 12 teams. They're going to, let's say they're going to take the first quarter of $1 billion and they're going to divide that evenly against the 10 conferences. And then the other 3 quarters of $1 billion, you get X amount for being in the first round. You get X amount for winning that game to go to the second round, X amount for when, you see what I'm saying? So every time you
think you're going to reward schools for advancing? I doubt if that's going to be, I might be wrong, but I doubt that that's going to be the formula. I could see them splitting money based on representation in the playoff, but to pay teams more money to advance.
Isn't that how they do that in the tournament, NCAA tournament? Do you get more for each round or no?
Do they?
Yeah,
I don't
you get
know.
more money the further you go in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I thought I heard that somewhere.
Right.
The particular school
Yeah, you
gets
get
it or
more
the
money.
conference?
The conference gets
The
it.
conference share.
Good.
Yeah.
But it's not a
And I
lot.
could be wrong, Mark. I'm just saying I think the Big Ten and the SEC would push for that because it's more money for them,
Yeah. Heck yeah. They're going to get more teams selected. The SEC for sure, and the Big Ten based on recent history.
Well, in a 12 team, except for I think I did it at one time. I was just running through them. In a 12 team, it was only 1 year where the SEC, out of the last like 4 or 5 years, where the SEC had more than the Big Ten. Am I wrong in thinking that?
No, I think that's I made the statement because I ran through the 8 years of the playoff and I said the Big Ten, if history repeats itself, will benefit from this 12-team playoff more than any other conference. There have been more Wisconsins and Michigans and Penn States that have just missed than the other conferences.
And in a number of years, when I was looking, you have a lot of Pac-12 teams that finish like 8-12, 7-11. So that means 2 Pac-12 teams would be getting in as well. So you have 4-4 or 4-3 or 4-4-2, in that kind of range. So,
well, and it'll definitely help the Pac-12 because you've only had. So this guarantees you at least one team every year.
not me, because by the time they do this, we won't be in the Pac-12.
Yeah, no, that's
yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean,
it'd probably be bad for USC, to be honest with you, since you're moving to the Big Ten. It would probably be worse for you.
I think USC will be okay in the playoffs in the Big Ten. I think we'll find ourselves somewhere in the top 12 once in a while, if not often.
Now, I heard UCLA and USC wanted to move the Big Ten championship to the Rose Bowl so they could win it every year.
Yeah, well,
I'll tell you what, it's terrible out there.
we're the new kids on the block. I'm hoping we get anything when we come to the. It's gonna be. I hope we get. I hope they don't take our lunch money when we go there. Say new kids go sit in the corner while we decide what we're gonna do.
No, that happened to Maryland and Rutgers when they joined.
Okay, come on now. We're not Maryland or Rutgers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're getting the red carpet treatment. They didn't. They're still not getting an equal share.
I think the one thing USC and UCLA have on their side is that big bump in market share and the money.
Oh yeah.
So I mean that should give them some leverage, but I mean, how much? Who knows?
Well, and also your tradition. I mean, USC, you're a blue blood. So, I mean, that the tradition you guys have, that'll help, kind of like Nebraska when they joined the Big Ten, they were a blue blood. So they got a lot better than Rutgers and Maryland.
Well, we're kind of like that family that, there's 2 country clubs and one country club closed down. And then the richest person from that country club came over to the new country club. Doesn't mean you get to sit at the front table. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
You're showing up, and there's not a lot of programs in the Big Ten that are very happy with USC over the years, I would assume. So.
But think about this: when you guys go to the Big Ten will have 4 blue bloods. When Texas and Oklahoma comes to the SEC, we'll have 3 blue bloods, and the only other blue blood is an independent.
What's your list of blue bloods?
The list of blue bloods is Nebraska, Michigan.
Oh, I'll guess for him.
Oh.
I think there's so he said so. He tipped his hand. He said 4 and 3, right? So the 4 are going to be Ohio State, Michigan, USC, and Nebraska. That's where I think he's back.
Hi, guy, you with us?
Yeah.
We're in suspense here.
I think his internet's going in and out. He had that problem last night too.
Tim, you fill out the blanks for us.
Oh, well, then Alabama. So then SEC said 3 in the SEC. So blue bloods. Wow. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you who my blue bloods are. It's Notre Dame,
Oklahoma.
USC, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama. Those are certified blue bloods, can't be argued. Then Penn State and Nebraska are debatable on the line.
Somewhere, did you say? I think somewhere Will's crying. Did you say Notre Dame?
Yes, Notre Dame.
Okay.
I might have missed him.
He's the independent that they was talking about. So yeah, and I was throwing for a blank because obviously Texas,
I said Notre Dame, USC right out of the gate,
and then he had Texas. Yes, so he has Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama as the 3. And
it's pretty much right in line with my list.
The cool thing I think about the USC UCLA move is the Pac-12 has always called itself the Conference of Champions, but with USC and UCLA leaving to the Big Ten. The Big Ten now is the Conference of Champions. So that's something.
Well, it's that controversy over, how do you count championships now and past glory? Is everything that Nebraska achieved in the Big 8 and the Big 12 kind of transferred to the Big 10, and the same thing now with USC and UCLA?
Well, I mean like just like overall team championships.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
They are now members of the Big Ten, so the Big Ten can say our current members have all these championships, whereas obviously they were won as Pac-12 schools.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see the 6. I just don't. Tony went through it pretty clearly, and I think we all know it's pretty clear. Is no one's going to want to take a pay cut to load up 24 teams, unless I think that Ty Guy was trying to say that there would be maybe more money in the playoff system for this to happen, or maybe some way of making it or extending the season. I don't know what they have planned.
And that's why I threw out the great programs that I did, that if the Big Ten is going to go from 16 to 24, they're going to have to raid the best in the Pac-12 and the ACC to get there, because they're not taking on Iowa State and Kansas. No, they don't add value. So that's going to be like a major power move by the Big Ten if they take in 8 more teams, because that's going to be Notre Dame, Miami, Clemson, Florida State, some semblance of Oregon, Washington, Cal, Stanford, something like that.
Yeah.
Will it ever come down to, do you think they'll ever come down to where they'll take away the NCAA period, and then the Power 5 conferences also get all the basketball money then too?
Someone explained that something about, I can't remember what I'm sorry, I can't remember it, but it was an interesting conversation to where they actually needed just a governing body of the NCAA. I can't remember what it was for though. There was a reason
there has
for
to be
it.
a governing body. There
But I
has
mean,
to be
the NCAA,
someone.
it was them. They brought something as the NCAA that I can't remember. I shouldn't have brought it up. I don't remember what the conversation was.
So, they pay for everything for the lower classification schools out of all that basketball money. So it would hurt if you got rid of the NCAA. It would destroy Division III and football and everything else, because all that's paid for out of basketball money. But that's not what I wanted to come on and talk about. I wanted to come on and to say that there's going to be some good games this weekend, and a game that I've been keeping an eye on, because I'm looking at the over-under on it. And I know last night the over-under on the Michigan-Iowa game was 42.5. I think I'll take the under on that game. There's no way that the two teams will score 42 points. I think Iowa will score maybe 7. Michigan will score about 24 maybe. So I would take the under on that game. But Also, I
Well,
wanted to
what you
point
say
out.
there, Joey, makes total sense, but I wouldn't make the statement that there's no way, because certainly
Well, okay, there's a way. I just
Vegas
don't
wouldn't
see
put
it
that
happening.
line out there if there was no way that was going to happen.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening. How's that? I'm not giving betting advice. I'm just saying that's
I'm with you.
I'm thinking
I hear you.
So I also wanted to tell everybody that Mark has a new website. Mark, is it okay to go ahead and shout that out?
Absolutely. Throw it out there.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to say that
So,
it's polished up and looking great or anything like
right.
that, but here's the guy that I can thank for it, because we had our previous website. We had some things happen there. We got shut down. We didn't do anything wrong, but somebody kind of left us out to dry. So Joey saved us and we got it transitioned here. So thanks to Joey, we still have a site. It needs a lot of
Yeah.
work, but Joey saved
Still
us
working
here.
on it.
So,
Still working on it, but I've been a little busy, and then on top of that, had COVID for a few weeks, so kind of was out of the picture for a little while. But it's thevoiceofcollegefootball.com, and we have a ticker on there. And the good thing about the ticker is that it'll give you lines on games as well. So like you can hit that ticker Saturday morning and see what the line on your game is for that day. And of course scores and everything else. So I know everybody gets online and checks on Saturdays for the score of certain games. Just go to thevoiceofcollegefootball.com and use the ticker there. And
nice.
Also, we're on Substack now. So Mark has writers, and they write articles. And so they used to write articles and put them on the website, but we set it up to where we didn't have to do that. They can write their articles on Substack now. So if you go to substack.com, search for the Voice of College Football, you'll find him, or you can go to voiceofcollegefootball.com/Substack. And you can get to anything Mark Rogers from his website. The voiceofcollegefootball.com will take you to the YouTube page, take you to the Substack page for the writers, merchandise store that's coming real soon. Very soon, the merchandise store.
I heard you. You're piquing my interest there, Joey. Coming real soon.
Man,
the
merchandise store is coming.
Love it.
Very, very soon because got all the equipment to get the merchandise going. And now we just got to get some supplies and we're ready to go there. So I've not been sitting back. So we're ready to go pretty much on merchandise as soon as we can get some supplies. So merchandise
we had a
store
guy
will be
call
up
us last night. He desperately wants the top 25 that actually makes sense shirt.
There you go. Okay. That sounds good. We can do
and
that.
Apparently I made some kind of quote. He wants a quote on the back, but we'll see about that.
So anyway, guys, we're trying to mainstream the website to where you can get to anything Mark Rogers at any time. His podcast, everything. I don't have a podcast on there yet. I've got to get those links and get them on there, but they will be on there probably the next day or two. So anything you want from Mark Rogers, you can go right to the website and get straight to the YouTube channel, straight to Substack, straight to the writers, straight to whatever you might want to look up for Mark Rogers. So, and like we said, merchandise coming soon. And West Virginia is going to beat the crap out of Texas this weekend, just so everybody knows. Making sure everybody knows that right up front here, right now.
There's some
Texas
easy money for everyone. Joey's giving you a good tip there because West Virginia is like a 9.5 point dog. They're going to win that straight up, huh? That's a big money play right there.
Be John Robinson for Texas. I think that Steele for West Virginia will tackle him in the backfield every time he touches the ball. He'll finish the game with like negative 400 yards probably. And so West Virginia's freshman running back will probably gain a couple of 100 yards pretty easy on Texas with 6 touchdowns. So I think West Virginia will win that game pretty easy. I would say, by at least 3 touchdowns. But anyway, no. But I do think West Virginia has a chance to win that game.
Sure they do. They're playing Texas.
Everybody has a chance. That gets me back to the playoff thing. Let me say this.
Yep.
The playoff system needs to be implemented soon to help teams, help conferences like the Big 12. Because the Big 12, if we look at it top to the bottom this year, and you take the best team in the Big 12, and you take the worst team in the Big 12, they play each other. The worst team could beat the best team in the Big 12 three or four times out of 10. Honestly. You take like Oklahoma, for instance. Oklahoma is a great team. They got beat by a mediocre Kansas State team the other day.
Oh, Joey,
Because
I'm right there with
because
you.
it's pretty.
I'm with you lockstep until you made that statement. Oklahoma's a great team, and Kansas
Okay,
State's just
but
an
they're
average team.
They're better than Kansas State. They're better than Kansas State,
Probably,
talent-wise,
yes,
right?
I agree with that, but they're not a great team.
Okay, they're
I do
better.
not
They're
think
better
Oklahoma's a great team.
talent-wise, right?
Well,
They're better
I'm right there
talent-wise.
with you, Joey.
So what I'm saying is, Oklahoma State and Baylor are playing this weekend. Baylor's already got a loss to BYU. If Baylor beats Oklahoma State, that gives Oklahoma State a loss. And
Yep.
you know, with one loss, Big 12 teams not getting into playoffs. And that's what I'm talking about. The parity in the Big 12 with teams beating up on each other. That would help. It would help the Big 12 for the playoff to come sooner than later. That's all I'm saying here. Baylor got left out. What was it? 2014 with one loss.
Yes, and TCU with one loss.
That's right, and TCU. So
I got the right two guys on here right now because you guys should be both happy with me because all offseason, what have I said? The SEC is the best conference. It's no debate. Shut it down. We can't even talk about it. The Big Ten's number 2. Forget it. Nobody's close to them. My last conference rankings, Big 12, number 2. And did I have the Pac-12 3? I believe I had the Pac-12 3.
I think you got 3, yeah. Then
Yes,
the Big Ten and then the ACC.
I am going by the results. And the results, that's what the results are telling me. That the Big 10, the Big 12 has stepped up, and the Pac-12. It's been impressive.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you.
I think that
we're going to just take a nice super chat.
Christopher, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the contribution. This is insane what we are talking about. College football is turning too much into the NFL, and with NIL, what just happened to watching kids making plays and playing football? I'm old school, just want to watch college football. My first experience was the Snow Bowl. Okay. Christopher, thank you for being here. Do you guys know when the Snow Bowl was? Anybody out there? Quick little education for everyone. Unless I'm missing this, the Snow Bowl is the 1950 Ohio State-Michigan game. 9-3. And Michigan won, and they did not get a first down in that game. Yes, the Snow Bowl.
Now, Christopher, here's something
talking
that
about
you're
another
saying in
Snow Bowl. That's the Snow Bowl. Yes, Dependent Fanatic. Thank you. 1950.
Christopher, here's what I've got to say with your super chat. I agree with you that that may hurt college football a little bit, but when you turned 18 years old, if you didn't play football, you had the right to go out and make money on your name.
Absolutely,
you had the right from the time you turned 18 years old to go out and make money on your name. And we're telling adult 18-year-old, well, you know, they're adults, that they can't make money on their name, image, and likeness. But yet, they're throwing them on commercials. They're throwing them on TV. They're making millions of dollars using their name, image, and likeness, and wasn't paying them. So, you know, I have to say that they have a right to make money just as much as anybody else. So they
absolutely.
So
and I think we're putting the blame in the wrong spot. If anything is going to ruin college football, it's not going to be the transfer portal. It's not going to be NIL. That was all going to shake itself out, and that was all inevitable. It is the TV contract money grab bag greed, screwing up the traditional conferences, ripping apart conferences, and sticking them all together in these random conferences and losing all the tradition, which now with the playoffs, and now we're going to a 12-team playoff, making the bowl games even more irrelevant. That's what's ripping apart what I grew up. You know, I mean, I remember the 80s. I remember the late 80s and the 90s, and you know, that's for me. That's the heyday for me. I wasn't there for the Snow Bowl, but I that's what I remember. I remember all those Rose Bowls. I remember all those Sugar Bowls. I remember those games, those Orange Bowls. That's what I grew up with. And now bowl games, unless it's part of the playoffs, they're meaningless. If you're not one of the top 4 teams, why even play football? Almost like, and I know us as fans, we don't believe that, but that's the national narrative. And that, along with the fact, again, the biggest thing was the first move with Oklahoma and Texas going, and then USC and UCLA just basically ripping two conferences apart. And that was all about money. It was all about Fox and ESPN. And that was what was going to ruin football, I think, if it is.
If I could add something to Christopher's comment, and Joey said it very well, and I'll just add to those comments. I have a lot of respect for those guys playing in 1950, 1960, fill in the blank, because they had so many disadvantages that these guys don't have today. But they weren't treated like professionals. And when I say treated like professionals, I don't mean in a positive way. I mean in a responsibility way. It wasn't a job. One of the best descriptions of that I've ever heard was, I've been to 2 luncheons with Jim Delaney, former Big Ten commissioner, where he talked about, he was a varsity basketball player at North Carolina in 1968, 69, 70. So he was playing playing in Final Fours. So he's playing the top of his sport. And he said, and he went through like a regimented schedule and talked about what was demanded of them as athletes in 1968, 69, 70, in that range, versus what's demanded of these athletes today. And he says, completely different. He said, we were students that went after school, we went to practice, and we were expected to run and stay in shape and whatever in the off season, but we went to practice. That's what we may have a little film session or whatever. No, they have the responsibility of professionals now. And to Joey's point, shoot, there are 14-year-olds on TikTok making $1 zillion, making stupid videos. They're Americans. They should just be given the right to be able to earn money. And to Tim's point, if this is working correctly, NIL, they are not being paid to play. They are being given the opportunity, because they play and have fame and notoriety, to capitalize on that, to earn money in the open marketplace, just like any other American.
But what's ripping the fabric is ruining the traditional conferences and the regionality of the sport. That is what's going to turn to the NFL.
I know when NIL first came out, I know I was worried as a West Virginia fan that will West Virginia be able to keep up with the Alabamas and the Texases of the world, and we have. I was worried about it, but West Virginians rallied, and got behind NIL. They started a collective, and the players are doing just as well at West Virginia as they are at Miami or at Texas, or So I'm happy about that. So that was my biggest fear when it came out, and it's not really a fear anymore.
But my thing is, if we're going to start doing this NIL, we're going to start paying these players, then I think they should pay the money back if they decide to set out a bowl or they decide to set out something major. They should lose part of that money because they're contracted, they're using this money to play a sport. Then they should actually, I don't like this sending out a bowl games.
But that's
between
play.
Them and the collective that pays them, though.
Right.
So I totally get it. So for example, let's say Nike was the collective that paid Quinn Ewers all that money, and they don't care where he plays because he's still Quinn Ewers. Go to Alabama, go to Texas, Ohio State. We don't care. And so he leaves Ohio State, goes back to Texas. Nike doesn't care. But if he was making that based on being an Ohio State player, like this is a Columbus, Ohio group of businesses, they're paying Quinn Ewers and he ups and runs to Texas. Well, I would hope that they're smart enough to put in his contract, we're paying you X number of dollars as long as you are playing for Ohio State University. And it's the same thing of what you're talking about right there.
But I think that gets sticky, Mark. I mean, that's the whole point. I don't think A's collectives, from what I understanding of it is, and how NIL is written up, it's none of it can be to play at a specific school. It's just that you are an athlete. You can sell your name, image, and likeness, but it cannot be tied to any individual school because then it becomes pay for play. That was my understanding of it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But I would think
Colby,
then. I'll just say this
asking
one
a
thing,
question.
Joey. In
Go ahead, I'm
response to that, if I'm a collective, if I'm a booster, whatever, I've got a business, I'm going to pay per season. I'm going to say, Bryce Young, I know I only want to pay you because I'm an Alabama fan. Therefore, I will pay for you to do a podcast on Alabama football. So I'm going to pay you for the 2022 season. And then we're going to extend that once I know that you have, continue to be an Alabama football player and not transferred somewhere.
But wouldn't you?
But I get what you're
Colby
saying.
Colby was asking about JT Daniels' NIL. His NIL is with Zaxby's Restaurant and some kind of a suit company. I don't remember the name of the company. Makes suits. It wasn't Armani or anybody like that. It was a smaller company.
But I would hate to pay a player NIL money and he sets out the biggest game of the year. That just would hurt.
Well, I mean, maybe you could have it to where it's not tied to you to play at this school. Just saying you have this contract, you're required to play. You can't sit out games. I mean, I think that you can get around that.
Right.
You know what I mean? As long as it's not tied to you must play at this school. Like you're just saying, listen, we want for instance, if you had someone that's I don't know in the NFL and you want to give them some lucrative contract to represent your company, and then they decide they're going to retire. I'm wondering if there's something in the contract saying that you need to keep playing football in order to stay. We gave you a 6-year contract, but if you leave, you stop playing football, well, then
exactly. All your value is tied to playing football, and if you're not playing the games, then you're of no value.
Yeah, I think a way to get around it. But that's my biggest fear. Again, is paying. It should never be paying kids when they're at school and they're starving. And there's the $100 handshakes. I used to be the guy. Yes, you would never do that. When I was younger, they all over the years, even ex-players have brought up and said, "Yeah, this happens." I don't have a problem with the fact that there were $100 handshakes once the guy was already on campus. Where the problem was when you're giving guys golden Trans Ams to come to your school, that's when you cross the line. When you're giving mom and dad money to their church, so their church, so that your son comes plays quarterback for us. That's where I say that's where you're crossing the line. So anyway.
What's been hilarious about a lot of these investigations that have been uncovered and a lot of these dirty stories that are out there, and the SMU one is the one that's the most obvious and egregious, but is a ton of the money that's been exchanged has gone to players that haven't even signed at the school where they received from some big booster. They still went somewhere else, but hey, they got handed a ton of money.
Who was it that got? So who was it that with the Dickerson thing? So what school gave him?
Yeah,
and then he ended up going to SMU.
Texas A&M give him a.
There you go.
The Trans Am.
Firebird? Wasn't it Trans Am?
When the black Trans Am was big with the the Smokey and the Bandit.
And then he ends up going to SMU after getting the car. What are they gonna do? Who are they gonna call? Right.
And the Ohio State quarterback gets a new Mercedes every 45 days or something like that on his NIL deal. That's amazing.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah.
The USC guys are
like
getting
every 45 days.
They're getting S500s, Mercedes-Benz. A couple of the guys on the USC team they got a Fletcher Jones big Mercedes-Benz dealership here in Southern California. Yeah, all these kids are getting cars now.
Oh, hey Tim, I wanted to say something to you. Since you didn't fall for my Jedi mind trick about Kansas and Iowa State, I'm taking Iowa over Michigan tomorrow, straight up.
I thought I was pretty unique with that pick, but I guess not.
Yeah,
I got to play mind games with Tim. That's the only way I can beat him in this.
No, you guys are winning. You and John are ahead, and I think Eric's only 1 point behind me, so it's pretty tight towards the top there. But it's only. I get, what I'm thinking, Jeff. I don't think you or I will be the top 5 by week 10. I think we'll be done. But let's enjoy this time while we have it, right?
I would tell people though, join Patreon, and you could see what me and Tim bet or pick. If you pick against us, you're going to make money through the year because me and Tim do not know what we're doing.
Definitely not.
Well, I'm going to jump off. I just wanted to come on and
Thanks,
promote
Joey.
your site and stuff. And everything.
Well,
hey, and people go ahead and join Mark's Patreon page and come over on Discord with us. We really do have a good time on Discord. You'll enjoy it. All right. Good night, guys.
Joey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And I always throw out there when we get to the 3-hour marker, I always put the I give you the Iron Horse moniker whenever we get to that.
I got to go to 3, huh?
Once you get to 3 hours, like when I first started watching your show, you would hit that 3-hour mark quite often. But
yeah, I've been bailing.
That's a long haul.
Yeah, I've been bailing way short of 3 hours here the last several months. That's for sure.
Well, it's not like this is the only show you do. So
well, there you go. There's 11 of them, team live stream. So we got those.
And the good news, if there's any Trojan fans out there, that we're now moving Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific.
Ooh, yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Those numbers are going to pop now. Those numbers are going to jump.
Let's get a banner out on that one. USC Live, Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm going to have to be here at 11 doing our USC show. And of course, I ran out of banner space, so I'm going to have to delete something else, but we'll do that. Before we get that, Dave Valinsky, thank you so much for the super chat. Bring socialism back to college football. Equal TV contracts. Every player makes the same. I don't know if he's kidding. He's probably not, but you understand you can't do that. It's NIL money. So these companies get to act with freedom. They get to pay whatever players they select they want to play. So understand that's a nice idea, but will not work and will not happen.
Now, Mark, have you seen the Alabama banner they put up when a kid commits to Alabama? It's the titles over Lamborghinis. Nice. We're saying that we're not giving NIL deals. We'll give you titles instead of Lambos.
Nice. Who's doing that? Who's throwing that out there?
I don't know. I don't know who it is in the athletic department, but every time somebody commits to Alabama, they put their picture with the little banner over top, Alabama. We give titles, not Lambos.
That's funny. All right, guys. I think we've done enough damage. What do you think?
3.5 hours. You're a half hour past the Iron Horse. So I think you've done your job.
All right. I'm back to my old standard there. Very good. Christopher, appreciate that super chat. Thank you so much. A lot of pressure for a 18, 19, 20-year-old. NIL sucks. Do they have more pressure making a little bit of money or a lot of money on the side?
See, but the problem with NIL is we're not using NIL right. I believe that the kids deserve NIL. I believe that, if schools sell jerseys with their names and their, and the NCAA games that are out there, players deserve if you use their name, image, and likeness. You shouldn't sign somebody up for $1 million and have them do nothing.
Sure.
I think kids should be able to sell autographs, stuff like that, make a little bit of money off of their name, image, and likeness. I don't think, schools should load up all the business around town to give them a bunch of money for nothing.
To me, the whole Johnny Manziel situation, and this was this was the first couple games of 2013. This was the offseason going into 2013 after he won the Heisman and became a big deal. And then, he got caught by the NCAA, but they couldn't prove anything. So they suspended him for a half, but said, we didn't find anything. So it's like, so anyway, they knew he did something, but they couldn't nail him, basically, is what happened. And that's where I thought, shoot, I produced a video. I actually reposted the video about a year ago because I'm like, I was talking about this in 2013 saying, well, let's get ahead of this, set up some guidelines, figure this out. He should be able to sign some autographs and get paid for it. It's the American way. So let's make way for this and figure out, or this is going to be a mess. And I'm no visionary, but 9 years later, nobody did anything about it. And here we are.
Well, and you can even go before that with the Ohio State scandal where the people were, they sold, their Michigan, what did they get? Necklace or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if a player sells that, who cares? that really I didn't think deserved, any
What was
punishment.
the ruling on that? That's their property. You can't sell something you've gained
No.
while
can't.
you're playing, I guess, while you're still
Yes,
playing.
while you are still eligible at the university and playing at the university, even though it's yours, it's not to be sold. So like Terrell Pryor won the Sugar Bowl MVP, Rose Bowl MVP. And then they received these little gold pants for beating Michigan, and they sold those. Like today, that would be nothing. It's theirs to whatever.
Well, and I never heard what kid it was, but Alabama had a player from the 2020 team who won a national championship, and his ring was sitting at a pawn store in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He sold his ring, and why not? I mean, he earned it. It's his. If he sells it, I don't see the big deal.
The caveat might be is if they sell it for the market value. So let's say I'm a USC booster and someone's selling, I don't know, let's say they have some token or whatever, and they're selling it. It's usually the market's $250, and I give them, $10,000 or $5,000 for it. That's where I could see there being an issue. But I guess maybe they keep that because where do you set that limit? Because value is what someone's willing to pay for, right? I mean, that's what in economics, the value is what someone will give you for that object. So I guess you get into muddy waters. So they probably say you just can't sell anything.
Well, I actually do agree with that rule. I do think that it makes sense that you're preserving the sanctity of the award, but you're also giving it to the player because they will eventually completely own it to sell it. But while they are still enrolled at the university and playing for that school, I have no issue with that rule that they should be hanging on to those awards and trophies, and they shouldn't be out there on the open market.
Yeah.
But it's theirs. It's theirs for a lifetime. And then after they played their last game at USC, sell what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, I understand why you don't want that to happen because you want it to mean something for the kids.
All right, folks, we'll be back here before UCLA Washington tomorrow night. So we got the West Virginia live show at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Then we're going to roll right into a call-in show to take us to kickoff of UCLA Washington, which I am looking forward to. Tim, what do you think? UCLA finally time to join the 2022 college football season.
Big Penix Power's coming, man. The Big Penix Power is going to be coming through. I think they're gonna beat them.
Okay,
that's my. I mean, or I might be trying to throw Jeff off. Who knows? I might be trying to use the
Jeff. Me off. It's going to be a Washington Michigan State replay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate you being here. Everybody in the chat, you guys have been amazing. Thanks so much for supporting in every way you guys do. Please hit the like button on the way out. And remember, we'll be back here at 8 Eastern tomorrow night.